It all started with Jiang Bai using only his wits to win millions in a high-end casino. The owners of the establishment refused to give up the money and surrounded him. One of the guards pointed a gun at Jiang Bai. His anger flared instantly as he threw the briefcase with the money and kicked the assailant in the head, startling Tier. Tier called for reinforcements with weapons, ready to suppress Jiang Bai. He explained how he had picked up the money from the 100,000, pointing at his temple, causing Tier to be surprised. Seeing the crowd of armed guards, Jiang Bai knew that the danger was critical. He ran away, trying to escape. On the street, he is suddenly hit by a truck, and his luck ends abruptly. Thayer, who was running after him, calls an ambulance and the police in shock. Jiang Bai found himself in a strange place, covered in pain and confusion. He was trying to process what was happening, trying to figure out if he was still alive and what had happened to him. Jiang Bai wakes up in bed and immediately feels very confused. Not understanding what is happening to him, a sharp pain starts in his head, and along with it, memories come up that he didn't remember or realize before. These images seem alien, and at the same time native, which is why he cannot understand whether they relate to the past or to the future. He sits down in a chair, hoping to recover. But the pain persists and only increases the sense of unreality of what is happening. At that moment, a strange voice appears in his mind, telling him that he has hit a big jackpot and is in reincarnation. Jiang Bai is shocked and confused, not knowing who is talking to him or what is going on. The voice calls itself a god, and declares that it grants it a special system associated with prestige points and unlimited opportunities. He is given to understand that with the help of this system, you can get fame, power, and everything that he wants. After receiving no explanation, Jiang Bai is left at a loss and decides that what is happening is like bullying. Suddenly, there is a commotion from the street, and his thoughts are interrupted by the reality of the outside world. He goes to the window and sees several guys who obviously didn't come with peaceful intentions. Walking down to them, Jiang Bai still doesn't understand what's going on. When he approaches them, they say that for a favor from Jiang Bai, he will be under their protection. Jiang Bai is the first to land a punch in the face, leaving no chance. Bing's friends were shocked after Jiang Bai hit him. He continued to attack Bean without stopping. Bing's friends tried to intervene, but Jiang Bai threatened them and they retreated. He slashed at Bin's face again and again, displaying incredible strength. When he stopped, Bean's friends anxiously asked about his condition. Jiang Bai said that Bing is still alive, but if he wants to, death will follow instantly. Bing's friends thought that Jiang Bai was connected to the underworld. Bean's friends grabbed him and ran away to save at least his life. At that moment, a bell rang, and the first victory sign lit up on the screen. Jiang Bai had destroyed 3 enemies and received 5 prestige points. He recalled God's words about the prestige system and thought about the meaning of these points. A moment later, 2 new signs appeared, announcing the first prestige point and the free lottery. A strange slot machine with an unusual design came out of the system, which Jiang Bai watched in surprise. 2 plaques successively explained the lottery rules, bonuses, colors, and rewards that open at the first call. Jiang Bai realized that wealth and power could now be achieved through the system rather than ordinary knowledge. He summoned a self-proclaimed god and launched a lottery with determination, wanting true strength, the ability to control fate, money, prestige, and power. When Jiang Bai scrolled through the slot machine, the result came out. Get rich overnight. He was in shock and a flash of rage, thinking that all this was a setup, and he was just deceived. Jiang Bai started hitting the machine gun, but nothing changed, and he thought he had broken it. At that moment, a new message appeared on the screen, announcing the receipt of a purple reward, a special ability, autobiographical memory. At first he was delighted, but almost immediately he was confused, not fully understanding what exactly he had received. The intense pain flashed through my head again, and then memories flooded in. He saw a scene from his childhood when he was cooking dumplings with his mother, and emotions overwhelmed him. Jiang Bai couldn't hold back his tears as he realized that there were some things and people that could no longer be returned to. He realized that he had to become a better person and be worthy of those who loved him, and decided to start a new life from scratch. Once home, he thought about how to use the new ability, and his memory responded again. Memories related to Bin and his surroundings surfaced in his mind, revealing fragments of his past. Jiang Bai realized that Bing had a dark history and that scaring him would be easy. After realizing this, he decided to stay away from the area and leave as soon as possible. When he arrived at his new home, he was shocked by how far away this place is compared to the past. When Jiang Bai arrived at the new apartment, the landlord warned him that it could be noisy and only the middle class could live here. Jiang Bai chuckled and said that compared to his previous home, this place is almost a mansion. He collapsed on the bed and was surprised at how soft it was. Old man Jiang started praising the area. Good environment, neighbors, transportation. Jiang Bai nodded and promised to take care of the apartment and not create any problems in the next few days. After receiving the keys, he was left alone and sat down at the computer. He thought about the body's previous owner and realized with annoyance that he was weak, poor, and without connections. There was no physical work, no underground work either. The body was too weak. He realized that his assumptions were correct and that the underground world here was different from Earth's. Then he realized that the events from Earth did not happen here, and this is his main advantage. The idea came abruptly to write a novel from Earth. It loaded ISSTH. The reaction of readers was instant. Discussions, enthusiasm, voices. Jungbai wrote another 30 chapters overnight and decided to post them later. My computer was flooded with notifications, and I received an email from the Kidian editor. He was offered a contract after only 3 chapters. Jungbai was shocked to see the stats. 120,000 views and 10,000 votes in a few hours. A system notification appeared about getting 12 prestige points for increasing fame. He laughed, realizing that plagiarizing from Earth worked too well. The system reported that fame is also considered prestige, and his name is already becoming famous. There was another notification. Now he knows how to consistently earn prestige. Jiangbai understood the pattern. Every 10,000 views gives 1 point. He started counting and realized that with 100 million views, he would get 10,000 prestige points. Taking into account the previous awards, he already had 17 points. He turned to the system and demanded to show what you can buy for this amount. The system responded smugly and opened the list of available rewards. Jiangbai chuckled as he looked at the long list. Jiangbai was surprised to find that 1 prestige point could be exchanged for $1,000. He immediately realized that prestige can be turned into money, but not back, and only an idiot would do that. Looking through the list, he came across a strange item: phone dating. Then it got even worse. 15 prestige points for the robot. The system immediately issued an achievement stating that the robot is powered by electricity. Jiangbai cursed in disbelief. He quickly scrolled through and noticed the martial arts he had seen in the previous lottery. Sando was worth 500 prestige points. Too expensive for him. Muay Thai, 700 points, and Taekwondo 1,200. He realized that even against Bean's gang, these skills weren't enough yet. The system infuriated her, and her own weakness irritated her even more. Out of curiosity, he checked the price of his autobiographical memory, 100,000 prestige points. Jiangbai was shocked. Such an amount seemed unattainable. A month passed, during which he wrote 200,000 words and ate only instant noodles. As he was about to celebrate with a proper meal, the phone rang. The editor reported that Jiangbai's account received 1 million in advance, and the views exceeded millions. Immediately after the call, the system awarded him 1,000 prestige points and opened a free lottery. When the machine gave out the purple reward, Jiangbai felt something new start to enter his mind. When Jiangbai felt something foreign entering his mind, his body was instantly shackled by pain. My head felt like it was splitting from the inside. My thoughts were confused, and my vision was getting dark. The pain grew worse until he lost control of his body and collapsed to the floor. Even as he tried to get used to the sensation, the pain wouldn't let up and made him faint. In the chaos of memories, the name of the martial art, Bajikwan, came up. He realized that this wasn't a simple technique, but a serious and rare art worthy of an imperial level. After recovering, Jiangbai unconsciously began to repeat his movements, as if his body knew what to do. With each movement, he could sense the hidden power of the Fist of 8 Limits, powerful and overwhelming. There was no doubt that Bajikwan existed in this world, and now it belonged to him. The practice drained him, and soon he felt a sharp hunger that reminded him of reality. He remembered that he had missed an important meeting but decided to recuperate first. As he walked down the stairs, he noticed a girl with an extremely attractive appearance. Her appearance gave him a vague sense of unease and foreboding. I remembered hearing rumors about a beautiful but troubled woman living nearby. Jiangbai chose to keep a cool face and show no interest, considering such meetings to be a source of trouble. Past experience had taught him that there were often pitfalls hidden behind good looks. However, the girl was there too suddenly and too insistently. Her behavior only served to increase his suspicions and inner tension. When they left the building, she led him confidently, as if everything had been decided beforehand. At that moment, a rough male voice rang out from behind, and Jiangbai immediately knew that trouble was just beginning. The man called out sharply to Yao Wei and demanded an explanation, pointing at Jiangbai. She didn't hesitate to call Jiangbai her boyfriend, which instantly changed the situation. At this moment, Jiangbai realized that he had been used as a cover and deliberately dragged into the conflict. It became clear to him that her entire behavior was a game, and that he himself was a convenient pawn. The man flared up, not believing what he was hearing, and expressed dissatisfaction with the fact that he was kept in the dark. Yao Wei openly rejected him, making it clear that everything was over between them. The man did not want to accept the refusal, saying that he was not going to give up. He gave Jiangbai a scornful assessment and, after receiving no response, turned around and left. Jiangbai received the situation indifferently. completely losing interest in the situation. He made it clear that he wasn't going to continue this farce and just wanted to eat. Leaving everything behind, he headed to the restaurant and devoured the food greedily. Physical exhaustion and recent events had taken their toll, and he ate without restraint. During the meal, an unexpected bell rang, breaking a rare moment of peace. From the conversation, it was clear that someone had searched for him at home and left a mess behind. This seemed strange to Zhang, since he was a nobody in the past and didn't attract attention. When he went outside, he was confronted by a man who warned him about the danger. He was told that he was being watched and that it was extremely risky to return home. Songwoo's name sounded like a serious threat, a figure from the underground world. Instead of fear, Zhang felt anxious, as if trouble was just beginning. When he finally arrived at apartment 666 and saw the gang there, he realized that they were really waiting for him. A man in a pink shirt stepped forward and calmly said that it was him. His tone was confident, as if he was used to being listened to. Zhang looked at him with the bottle in his hand and chuckled, asking how he could help by calling him an old man without a trace of respect. Brother Li immediately flared up. He sharply demanded that Jiang Bai apologize to young Master Song Ye, threatening that he still wanted to live. He hurriedly added that Zhang Bai was just a kid, clearly trying to smooth things over and save his life. Zhang Bai didn't say anything, not even changing his expression, as if what was happening didn't concern him at all. Song Ye smiled and made a gesture to stop Brother Li, saying that everything was fine and that no one had dared to object to him for a long time. And it was even refreshing. Zhang Bai swirled the bottle in his hand and calmly said that if he was afraid, he wouldn't be standing here, then directly asked if they were here for Liu Bing. He poured the drink into a glass and added mockingly that he had beaten Liu Bing almost to death, and wondered if Song Ye was here for revenge. Song Ye admitted that he had heard about it and said that he didn't approve of it, even though it was Liu Bing's fault. He reminded him that Liu Bing was his nephew, and suggested that Jiang Bai choose how it should end, hinting at either a contract or a shotgun. Zhang Bai curtly replied that he didn't want either. Song Ye chuckled and stated that he had 23 scumbags, and if Jiang Bai could handle them, it would be over for today. Brother Li tried to intervene and asked the owner of the establishment to stop the conflict, fearing the consequences. Song Ye waved him off and said that he would handle it himself, advising Li to leave and not interfere. Zhang Bai suddenly suggested adding another member, which caught Song Ye's attention. He asked if he was referring to himself, and received a calm confirmation. Song Ye laughed and promised to think about it if Jiang Bai survived this, and maybe even call him brother. The thugs shouted insults at Zhang Bai and charged, after which the fight started instantly. Zhang Bai slapped the first one across the face, sending him flying away, while Song Ye irritably shouted at him to get up and not embarrass himself. One of the thugs shouted out in horror that this guy knows Kung Fu, but did not have time to finish. Jiang Bai hit him on the head with the chopper and coldly ordered him to lie down. Song Ye enthusiastically counted the defeated, noting that the boy was really good. The thugs fell to the floor one by one, screaming in pain and fear as they realized that this opponent was too tough for them. Soon, Zhang Bai had already taken down 5 of them, and then all the others. There were 23 of them. He looked at Song Ye and chuckled, saying that it was his debut, and invited him to smile at his fist in honor of the debut. Song Ye carefully looked at Zhang Bai and calmly said that he didn't expect to meet a person practicing the Emperor's Fist. He warned not to be conceited and added that he was studying Wudong, the Xingyiquan style, fist of form and intent. Zhang Bai noted that Song Ye looked too calm, which is normal for a martial artist. He added that his Bajiquan is no worse than Xingyiquan. Song Ye loudly called out his name and announced that he would use the fist of form and intent, ordering them to prepare. He attacked sharply, and the blow was so powerful that Zhang Bai was momentarily shocked. Zhang Bai was surprised to think that the punch was capable of creating a vacuum, and he admitted that the old man was really strong. A real fight immediately began between them. Song Ye punched Zhang Bai in the throat, but the next moment he was hit back in the stomach. Brother Li watched the fight in horror and couldn't believe that it was really Zhang Bai. Song Ye retreated and shouted out in shock that such strength was impossible. He asked if Jiang Bai Bajiquan's master was still too young. He said that he had become a master himself for decades and simply could not believe what was happening. The fight resumed, and now the advantage was clearly on Zhang Bai's side. During the fight, Zhang Bai calmly said that he had heard of Tai Chi as a killer technique, where once a year you need to take someone's life. Song Ye was panting, chuckling, and replying so that Zhang Bai wouldn't dare look down on Xingyiquan. He charged again, but Zhang Bai hit him in the stomach and Song Ye collapsed on the floor. Lying on the ground, Song Ye cursed and admitted defeat. Zhang Bai was surprised and asked if he was giving up so easily, suggesting that he continue. Song Ye refused and said that he lost fairly. He stated that from now on, he would call Zhang Bai Big Brother and believe him even at the cost of his life. After saying that, Song Ye bowed and loudly announced that everyone would follow Big Brother from now on. The surrounding people immediately picked up on this, calling Jiang Bai Big Brother and even offering to lend him 10,000 yuan. Jiang Bai was taken aback and cursed, reminding him that he wasn't a member of any triad at all. Song Ye laughed and said that they were brothers now. He admitted that he himself does not understand how he became so famous and where the followers came from. He added that he had never engaged in drugs and extortion, and all the intimidation was a forced measure due to circumstances. Jiang Bai thought to himself that these people were really just rude, but naive, and with this approach they wouldn't last long with money. Aloud, he said that he would discuss everything later, and asked Song Ye if Jiang Bai had any money at least. Jiang Bai calmly asked if Song Ye could lend him some money. Song Ye chuckled and replied that they weren't just playing triad. They have their own industry and ways to make money. He added that if you help, there will definitely be a reward. Jiang Bai immediately said that he wasn't a member of the triad and wasn't going to do anything he didn't want to do. He stressed that it's not what Song Ye thinks at all. Song Ye turned to Old Man Li and asked him to contact the old horse. He told me that he had a way to solve his problem and let him come here personally. Old Man Li politely replied that he would call the boss right away. He immediately started telling an old story. He reminded that Ma Changyang, known as the Old Horse, is a big underground boss. The Old Horse has a playboy son. He had a girlfriend in Beijing, but he left her. After that, the girl went and told her uncle everything. When my uncle found out the truth, something terrible happened. In the underground world, a real massacre began. This brought the Old Horse and his entire family to the brink of destruction. No one could stop that man. Jiang Bai calmly clarified that even the Old Horse's men couldn't defeat this old man. Song Ye confirmed and said that it was a half-step master. His steps are fast as lightning, and he is able to punch through concrete with his bare hands. His name is Tang Zongming, but above him is an even more terrifying figure. His teacher, Master Nalan, the mysterious master of the hidden sect. Jiang Bai chuckled and said that half a step is not a true master yet. Song Ye immediately stopped him and asked him not to jump to conclusions. He said that he knew how strong Jiang Bai's Banjiquan was, and that it would be difficult to stop the fight if they met. He only asked for one thing, not to kill Tang Zongming. Song Ye explained that Master Nalan was too dangerous. Even his own teacher doesn't want to mess with him. At this moment, heavy footsteps and a shout with Song Ye's name could be heard outside the door. The door swung open. The person who entered said loudly that he had heard from Li that Song Ye could solve his problem. Song Ye immediately laughed and greeted Boss Ma, apologizing for not making the call earlier. Boss Ma replied irritably that he was already here and demanded to speak directly. He asked if Song Ye had contacted his teacher. He added that he is ready to pay generously if the issue is resolved, as long as the demands are not excessive. Song Ye honestly said that his teacher wasn't coming, but his older brother is a legitimate trigram master, and it's normal for him to deal with half-step masters. Boss Ma looked around and said that he didn't see any old man. Song Ye pointed directly at Jiang Bai. Boss Ma was dumbfounded. Jiang Bai exhaled awkwardly. Boss Ma took Song Ye aside and laughed, telling her not to joke around. He asked again where the real big brother was. Song Ye seriously replied that he didn't believe it until he lost to Jiang Bai in a fight. Boss Ma had a hard time asking if this guy was really a trigram master. Jiang Bai gave him a brief greeting. Song Ye reminded the boss how many people he had recruited and how much money he had spent these days. He said that the reason for all the problems is a half-step master. Now he has a solution. He stated that his big brother was willing to deal with the matter and bear the consequences, even if Master Nalan showed up. He stressed that this is extremely difficult and dangerous work. Boss Ma acknowledged the risk and said that if Jiang Bai could handle it, he would give him a quarter of his property. The reward will include a bar and a dragon mansion with a total value of at least 10 million. Song Ye turned to Jiang Bai and asked for his decision. Jiang Bai calmly said that he would deal with this master, but the boss's son should be held accountable for his actions. He added that it all started out of disrespect for other people's feelings. Song Ye laughed and praised his older brother for being honest. Boss Ma hurriedly agreed and promised to be magnanimous if everything was settled. He told Song Ye to go with him. Jiang Bai, looking after them, calmly said that it was time to see what this half-step master was actually made of. They came to see Mr. Tang. Tang said that the old horse is very hardy and the evening will be interesting. Song Ye had invited 2 martial artists and hoped that Tang would keep his promise. The atmosphere was tense and foreshadowed a serious fight. Boss Ma explained that his son wasn't at fault and would marry the girl if necessary. He added that he would take care of her so that no one would get hurt. Tang told Song Ye that since Master was here, he didn't have to worry about his life. Song Ye laughed and noted that he wasn't the main figure today. Tang was surprised that Jiang Bai was so young, and his movements were already confident and precise. Jiang Bai irritably told the old man to stop talking nonsense. Jiang Bai was the first to attack, charging at Tang with a sharp lunge. Tang dodged and kicked, knocking Jiang Bai back. Zhang Bai chuckled and stated that he was using the Shaolin 12 Tantui technique. The fight promised to be fast and spectacular. Zhang Bai attacked again and demanded that Tang show the real Shaolin technique. They fought on equal terms, each watching the other's movements. Zhang Bai laughed and shouted at the old man not to relax. Zhang Bai's punch sent Tang flying backwards. Li cried out in horror that it was terrible. Tang acknowledged that this was a master of Bajiquan and the 8 trigrams. He wondered how it was possible to reach such a level at such a young age, but he noted that the fight is not over yet. Tang tried to kick, but Zhang Bai blocked the kick with his hand. Then, with a precise kick, he hit Tang's knee. The fight became even fiercer. The movements were fast and strong. In the end, Zhang Bai punched Tang directly in the face. The old master barely managed to stay on his feet. Zhang Bai knocks Tang down with a kick. His supporters immediately run up to the boss, and one of them points a gun at Zhang Bai in a panic. Tang gets up and severely punches his subordinate for interfering. He furiously declares that he will not tolerate disgrace in front of a worthy opponent and orders everyone to stand in line and keep quiet. Tang then apologizes to Zhang Bai, admitting that the incident was due to the poor discipline of his men. He hopes that what happened will be forgotten. Zhang Bai calmly accepts the apology and says that he came to solve problems, not create new ones. He doesn't attach any importance to what happened and introduces himself. Tang officially recognizes Zhang Bai as his friend. He promises to forget everything that happened and declares that there will be no more problems with him. The conversation then turns to the contract between Tang and Mr. Ma. Tang assures that the conflict is over and there will be no further obstacles. Zhang Bai considers his work complete and leaves with Song Yi. Mr. Ma sincerely thanks him, admiring his skill. The system notifies that the task is completed. Zhang Bai gets achievements, double prestige points, and a large reward. It also turns out that relationships with famous people give passive prestige. The relationship with Song Ye earns Zhang Bai a daily income of points. Zhang Bai decides to develop these connections. The next day, Song Ye reports that all the formalities have been completed and we just have to wait. Mr. Ma notices that Zhang Bai doesn't have a car. As a gift, he hands him the car keys. He jokes that in our time, a car is a necessity, not a luxury, and it will help in life and with girls. Later, a fat man calls Zhang Bai and informs him that his book has become popular. Several publishers want to get the publishing rights. Zhang Bai entrusts the choice of publishing house to the fat man, provided the price is good. After the conversation, Song Ye and Mr. Ma are surprised. It turns out that Zhang Bai is a famous writer. Mr. Ma is impressed that he combines martial skills and literary talent. Zhang Bai admits that he has temporarily lost his inspiration and wants to try something new. Mr. Ma suggests that he think about the film industry. Zhang Bai is surprised by the movie proposal. Mr. Ma explains that he has his own film company and is willing to give it to Zhang Bai and Song Ye. He says that domestic films in China are rapidly gaining popularity. With a good script and strong actors, you can get rich literally overnight. Zhang Bai realizes that he can create not only books but also films that didn't exist before. He gets an idea and suggests making a movie. Song Ye tries to cool him down by reminding him that film production is a complicated process. He advises you to think carefully before making a decision. Mr. Mi offers to settle the legal formalities for a fee. He calls the amount of 2 million for processing and legal transfer to the company. Zhang Bai agrees and promises to transfer the money in 10 days. He is also interested in the scale of the company and studio. At this moment, an unknown girl loudly calls out for Zhang Bai. As he approaches, he hears reproaches for his long absence. The system tells him that this is Lin Wang, his distant cousin. In the past, they were close, but over time, they almost stopped communicating. Lin Wang worries about Zhang Bai and tells him that his house has been destroyed. When she sees Song Ye and Mr. Ma, she thinks that Zhang Bai has become involved with dangerous people. She accuses him of shaming the family and potentially going to jail. Lin Wang is genuinely afraid for his future. Zhang Bai tries to calm her down and says that they are his friends. Song Ye and Mr. Ma react to the accusations with irony. Lin Wang offers help, money, housing, and even a job in the school library. She's willing to use her connections for him. Zhang Bai is touched by her concern, but refuses the money. He says that he has enough money and everything is under control. Before leaving, Lin Wang insists that he come to her school the next day. She wants to personally help him with his work. After she leaves, Song Ye wonders if Zhang Bai is seriously considering becoming a librarian. Zhang Bai replies that he has a plan. He reflects that working in the library isn't really that bad and might come in handy in the future. The next day, Zhang Bai went to school with Song Ye. The road was calm, and the car moved confidently through the morning streets. When they were about 600 meters away from the school, Zhang Bai suddenly asked them to stop. He decided to leave earlier, explaining that he didn't want to attract too much attention with an expensive car. At the same time, he made a comment about Song Ye's appearance, suggesting that he should change his style and hairstyle. Song Ye was at a loss, as he tried to figure out if he really looked like a bandit. Zhang Bai got out of the car and walked towards the school, leaving Song Ye to ponder what he had just heard. As he approached the building, he thought that perhaps it was time to contact an important girl. At that moment, a voice called out to him from behind, and he recognized the voice of his cousin Lin Wang. He was surprised that she had arrived so early, since it was only 8:30. Lin Wang took out her breakfast when she noticed that she didn't want to eat it herself. Zhang Bai didn't refuse, feeling slightly uneasy about her concern. While he ate, she hurried him so as not to keep the headmaster waiting. Zhang Bai mentally noted that Lin Wang had clearly decided to take care of his nutrition. Together, they entered the school and headed straight for the library. On the way, he could hear the women whispering to each other as they discussed the librarian's new job and cast glances in his direction. Lin Wang noticed that he really did read a lot of books. Zhang Bai confirmed this to himself, determined to use the opportunity to absorb as much knowledge as possible. Lin Wang placed a box of food on his desk, explaining that it was difficult for a newcomer to immediately figure out where to buy food. Zhang Bai sincerely thanked her, noticing that she was embarrassed, and quickly left for the classroom. He wondered why she couldn't be more honest with her feelings. While he was eating, Brother Wang came up to him. Lin Wang actually took care of him, he noted with a smile. Zhang Bai took this remark in stride, not understanding why this was being made a problem. Lin Wang was considered one of the 4 recognized beauties of the school, and her name was constantly discussed among the students, regardless of class or course. Her appearance, demeanor, and calm personality made her a prominent figure that attracted too much attention. Brother Wang cautiously started the conversation, trying to figure out exactly what kind of relationship Zhang Bai had with this girl. He spoke calmly, but there was a hint of curiosity in his tone, as if he had already made up his mind. The name of Zhang Tiannan, one of the 4 kings of the school, famous for his influence and character, came up in the conversation. It was rumored that Zhang Tiannan had long had his eye on Lin Wang and saw her as something that should belong to him sooner or later. In addition, his family had a serious weight and his mother held a high position in government structures. Any conflict with such a person could lead to unpleasant consequences, especially for ordinary students. Zhang Bai abruptly ended the conversation, unwilling to continue the topic under any circumstances. He had made it clear that Lin Wang was his cousin, and any speculation about that was pointless. However, he still noted to himself that he hadn't expected this girl to be so popular in the school environment. As the school day came to an end, Zhang Bai felt a rare sense of relief, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. His job as a librarian was far more tedious than he had anticipated, and required constant attention and patience. As he was leaving the school grounds, he suddenly noticed a strange cluster of people ahead of him. His instinct told him that this meeting would not be casual and peaceful. At that moment, he heard a familiar voice that hadn't appeared in his life for a long time. Thus, Wu Tan appeared in front of him, whose name already carried unpleasant memories in itself. He behaved confidently and defiantly, making it clear that he felt his numerical and social superiority. There were people standing next to him, whose presence only added to the pressure of the situation. Zhang Bai, on the other hand, remained calm, as if he wasn't intimidated by what was happening. Wu Tan ordered a briefcase to be brought in, which was soon in full view of them. Inside was a large amount of cash, enough to change the life of an ordinary person. He stated that he felt magnanimous and offered Zhang Bai a simple but dirty deal. If he left Yao Wei and disappeared from her life, the money would be the price for that decision. There were only 3 days to think about it, and the refusal clearly promised serious and irreversible consequences. Zhang Bai outwardly agreed, showing no emotion or resistance. Inside, however, he just grinned, considering what was happening a strange gift of fate. After receiving the suitcase, he calmly left without turning around or hurrying. On the way home, he wondered if this situation could be considered luck or the enemy's stupidity. He even made a mental note that the money had come too easily to him. As he approached the door of the house, he suddenly felt a presence behind him. The sensation was too obvious to be attributed to fatigue. Turning around, he saw Yao Wei, who had just returned from training. Her appearance spoke for itself, and it was clear that she had had a rough day. She looked guilty and worried as she confessed that Wu Tan had already made contact. At this moment, Zhang Bai finally understood why he was so obsessed with this girl. Her appearance and confident aura were eye-catching, making her dangerously attractive to people like Wu Tan. Yao Wei immediately asked if Zhang Bai had met Wu Tian. She looked angry and waited for an answer. Zhang Bai thought that he should calm down. He's an adult and shouldn't make excuses to this girl. He said that Wu Tian came and gave him 500,000 to bribe him. He just took the money. Yao Wei got angry and asked why he did it. She didn't like that he took someone else's money. Zhang Bai explained that it was his choice, and now it was up to him to decide what to do with the money. She grabbed his hand, indicating that she did not agree and wanted to return the money. Zhang Bai was shocked and said that everything he had was his. Yao Wei said that she would call Wu Tian and tell him everything. He can forget about his money. Zhang Bai was angry, but he still gave her 1,000 to calm her down. Yao Wei was indignant that he gave too little, She wanted at least 400 out of 500,000. They started to argue, but eventually came to a compromise. Zhang Bai decided to give her 55%. After that, they shook hands. Yao Wei laughed and said that it was quite interesting. Zhang Bai joked that she was greedy herself. She replied that this was not the case. He said that if she wasn't greedy, he would take her share. She threatened to hit him if he tried. The next day, in the library, Zhang Bai sensed that someone was following him. It was Song Ye. He changed his hair and clothes, looked new and tried to impress. Zhang Bai told him not to smoke here and gave him a stern look. Song Ye apologized and said that he tried to look beautiful as he advised. Zhang Bai praised him for his efforts and said that he looked cool. Song Ye said that he was handsome and asked him not to stare so hard. He added that the library was no place for him, and people were already beginning to whisper. Zhang Bai told him to take his time and not worry. Everything is calm, no problem. Song Ye revealed that Ma's boss asked about the movie and wants to know the title. Zhang Bai said that the movie will be called Dragon, and everything will be ready. He added that it was now time to ask Song Ye to leave the library and attend to business. Song Ye left, and at that moment, Zhang Bai's phone rang, distracting him. Zhang Bai receives a call from Ma Xunyuan, who panics to report the abduction of his cousin Lin Wang. A neighbor describes Zhang Tian as a real scum and disaster of the school, known for his dirty deeds. It becomes known that Lin Wang was forcibly taken to the Marriott Hotel, under the pretext of some kind of payback. In the hotel room, Zhang Tian tries to get the frightened cousin to eat by pretending that everything is fine. Lin Wang mentions his cousin, hoping that his name will cool the kidnapper's ardor, but he just grins. Zhang Bai and Song Ye effectively kick down the door, interrupting the mock lunch. Zhang Tian is not intimidated. At his signal, the armed men immediately surround Zhang Bai and Song Ye. Zhang Tian admits that he has long wanted to test the reputation of the great cousin and destroy his business. Bandits point guns at the hero. Zhang Tian is confident that his fists won't help against the bullets of his men. Zhang Tian sets a condition. Zhang Bai would only survive if she immediately undressed in front of everyone. Sobbing and trembling in fear for his cousin's life, Lin Wang slowly begins to take off his clothes. Zhang Tian hurls insults at the girl, calling her a bitch and telling her to hurry up. Watching this humiliation, Zhang Bai knows that he won't hold back any longer. Zhang Bai gently asks her cousin to close her eyes and not open them, so that she won't see the horror that is about to happen. Zhang Bai hit the gunman with the gun flew out of his hand, and Zhang Bai said that they were all going to die today. Song Ye jumped up and grabbed the gun. He pointed the gun at one of the bandits and threatened to shoot. The bandit screamed in pain and said that his arm was broken. He could not move and began to panic. Zhang Tian got angry and started insulting his men. He shouted that there were only 2 of them, and the bandit still couldn't handle it. He mentioned his father and ordered Zhang Bai and Song Ye to be killed. He threatened to kill everyone if they didn't follow the order. The bandits began to panic and discuss what to do. They realized that with a gun there was almost no chance. Song Ye shot one of the bandits in the head, saying that he had warned them not to move. The remaining bandits were frightened and started to retreat. They realized that they were cold-blooded people. Song Ye shot everyone who tried to escape, but none of them survived. Zhang Tian was shocked and didn't understand how this happened. He didn't expect this outcome. Song Ye told Zhang Bai that the others were finished, and he left Zhang Tian to Zhang Bai. Zhang Bai thanked him and took the bottle as he walked over to Zhang Tian. Zhang Tian started threatening and talking about his father again. He was sure that they wouldn't do anything to him. Zhang Bai hit him on the head with the bottle, causing Zhang Tian to bleed. Zhang Tian laughed and started threatening again. He said that his father would take revenge. Zhang Bai kicked him and told him to shut up. He said he didn't care about his father. Song Ye noticed that such a blow could break Zhang Tian's ribs, and Zhang Tian could no longer move properly. Zhang Bai said that his father wouldn't help him, so he broke Zhang Tian's wrist and ended the conversation. Zhang Tian screamed in pain and shouted that he would kill Zhang Bai, his voice filled with rage and fear. Zhang Bai calmly replied that killing Zhang Tian was easier than crushing an ant, and then told Song Ye that he could finish him off. Song Ye agreed without hesitation and taunted Zhang Tian, telling him to get up and reminding him that it was his arm that was broken, not his legs. After Song Ye made fun of Zhang Tian, Zhang Bai asked Lin Wang to be taken away. Song Ye reassured her, saying that her cousin was very strong, and asked her to believe in him and not interfere. Lin Wang reluctantly agreed and left with Song Ye. When Zhang Bai returned home, he thought that he didn't really have a plan. He was very nervous and understood how dangerous the enemy was. He remembered that the enemy had about 300 men, all of them professionals with military backgrounds and automatic weapons. Zhang Bai realized that he had almost no chance in a direct collision and thought of another way out. He decided to turn to the system and choose a lottery, hoping for a miracle. The system reported that based on his prestige points, he can play 1 lottery. Zhang Bai demanded to run it without further ado, saying that his life depended on the result. When the scroll ended, Zhang Bai was shocked and couldn't believe what he saw. The system thanked him for the game. and Jiang Bai realized that things might end very badly. Jiang Bai was surprised and asked what was going on and why there was another option, then demanded an explanation from the system. The system responded that based on his current prestige points, he could make 2 preliminary draws. Jiang Bai complained to the system that it had scared him and couldn't be framed like that. He was really scared to death. The system coldly asked if he would play or skip a move, ignoring his emotions. Jiang Bai immediately said that he would play because he couldn't miss this chance. At this time, Zhang Tian's father, Zhang Chenggen, was approached by his men and told that a strange package had arrived. They said the package wasn't requested, but inside was a letter asking them to meet at a recycling plant in Hyoxian. The letter also said to bring as many people as they could muster. Zhang Chenggen got angry and asked who even dares to talk to him like that, and then ordered to gather people. His subordinates reported that they had already invited Lao Li and several national masters, and that should be enough. At this time, Wang, who was sitting on the grass, told Zhang Ye that Zhang Chenggen had gathered a lot of dangerous people. Zhang Ye replied that it wasn't that simple, because Jiang Bai might be a master, but the old monster Nalan decided not to touch him. He explained that this meant that Jiang Bai was not an ordinary person at all. Wang said that everyone was watching Jiang Bai because they wanted to see how he would develop. Zhang Ye coldly remarked that Zhang Chenggen was using people as a killing tool and acting like a fool. He added that all this fuss is just an excuse to interfere in his family business and try to absorb it. Vaughn offered to deal with it immediately, not hiding his anger. Zhang Ye stopped him and said that as long as he was alive, even a god wouldn't be able to make him submit. He mentioned that he has connections with Ye Song, who is a master, and he is the one he trusts. Zhang Ye ordered Zhang Chenggen to be informed that the young man named Zhang was related to Ye Song. Wang replied curtly that he would follow orders. Zhang Ye said thoughtfully that Jiang Bai had exceeded everyone's expectations, and if he survived this ordeal, he would meet him personally. He added that perhaps in a few years the balance of power will change again. Zhang Ye complained about the old bones in the cold, saying that he hadn't been here for a long time and it was time to go down the mountain. He spoke to Ye Song in his mind, saying that he had chosen this path on his own, and expressed the hope that he knew what he was doing. Jiang Bai, along with Ye Song and others, was waiting for Zhang Chengyong, while his son was lying at Jiang Bai's feet. Soon, Zhang Chenggen arrived in a black limousine, creating a heavy atmosphere. Song Ye quietly told Jiang Bai that they had arrived. When Zhan Tian saw his father, he screamed and begged to be saved. Song Ye quietly told Jiang Bai that Zhang Chenggen was standing in front of them, and the situation was getting really dangerous. Zhou Shilong, who came along with Zhang Chenggen, turned to Song Ye and said that he knew his master and that he was the one who came to solve the problem today. He ordered Song Ye to return to his teacher, making it clear that he shouldn't interfere. Song Ye recognized Zhou Shilong and said that he was a half-step Huquan master who had fought with his master all his life. He wondered why he suddenly remembered his master right now. Zhou Shilong coldly replied that the younger generation no longer understood what was good and what was bad. After that, he gave Song Ye a smashing punch in the face and said that today he would teach him to respect his elders. He added that there is a limit to any arrogance, especially for such boys. Jiang Bai tried to kick Zhou Shilong and said that no one dared to touch his people. The old man dodged the blow, and the fight continued. Song Ye realized that the two opponents were too strong and said that he needed to move away and be careful. Zhou Shilong was surprised by Jiang Bai's strength and wondered how such a young guy could have such power. He suspected that Jiang Bai might be a real genius. Song Ye shouted at Zhou Shilong that it was over, and mockingly said that his older brother wasn't some half-step master. He sent the old man off rudely, not hiding his confidence in Jiang Bai. Zhou Shilong was angry and thought that this guy dared to look down on him. He decided to test if Jiang Bai could withstand his technique. Jiang Bai calmly said that the blows were too weak to kill him with such an attack. He noted that the speed of strikes is too predictable, and it's time to end the fight. After that, Jiang Bai threw a powerful punch that sent Zhou Shilong flying away. Jiang Bai said that such old people should stay at home and play with their grandchildren. Song Ye happily praised his older brother and said that he knew he could handle it. He loudly asked who would be the next to dare to go up against his big brother. Zhang Chenggen shouted furiously that if it came to this, it was time to use a weapon. He ordered his men to shoot. Zhang Chenggen's men all pointed their weapons at Song Ye and Jiang Bai, and the situation became tense. Song Ye's men panicked and asked him what to do because the enemies had too many weapons. Song Ye cursed inwardly and thought that he was hoping for big brother Jiang Bai's plan. Zhang Chenggen shouted and asked if he was the same brat Jiang Bai, and ordered his son to be released. Jiang Bai refused and said that he wouldn't let him go until he learned some manners. He recalled that he was called a brat, and right after that, Jianan's arm was stabbed with a knife. Zhang Chenggen became enraged and shouted that Jiang Bai was seeking death for daring to cross him. Jiang Bai calmly replied that the old man had messed up everything from the beginning and he was ready to die. He said that it was obviously Zhang Chenggen's stupid son who made the mistake. But he didn't care. Zhang Bai explained that this was why he had intervened, since they weren't going to let him go anyway. He pointed at the snipers outside and mockingly said that they had been waiting for the signal for a long time. Zhang Chenggen called him an ungrateful animal and said that Zhang Bai was nothing to him. He ordered the price of the insult to be shown and shouted for his men to kill Zhang Bai. At the same time, Zhang Bai was fired upon. Song Ye shouted in frustration, calling out for his older brother. Yang Bai took out a map. The system announced that the War God card was activated. In 1 millisecond, Zhang Bai disappeared. Song Ye's people looked at each other in shock and asked where Boss Jiang had gone. Song Ye couldn't understand how this was possible and thought that this was no longer a martial art. Zhang Chenggen shouted furiously at his men, demanding that they find Jiang Bai and kill him. His men once again pointed their weapons at Song Ye and his men. Song Ye called out to his older brother in confusion. Jiang Bai called out to Zhang Chenggen from the rooftop and asked why he wasn't running. Zhang Chenggen was in shock and didn't understand how Jiang Bai ended up there in an instant. Jiang Bai threw a punch at Zhang Chenggen with incredible speed. Song Ye's people asked in horror if an ordinary person could do such a thing and if he was Superman. Song Ye anxiously wondered if his older brother had gone too far. Zhang Chenggen screamed in pain and ordered to shoot Jiang Bai and not let him get any closer. Zhang Chenggen's men opened fire on Jiang Bai, but he dodged all the bullets. One of them said in shock that ordinary people can't do that. Song Ye couldn't believe his eyes and thought that he had hit his head and was dreaming. Jiang Bai said not to waste any bullets and threw out all the bullets in his hand. Zhang Chenggen's people were scared and said that this kind of thing only happens in movies or novels. Zhang Chenggen yelled furiously at them not to stop and continue shooting. Jiang Bai replied that he wasn't an alien but a human and laughed at these words. He said that he was giving 3 days for compensation and a decision. Otherwise, he would destroy Zhang Chenggen's entire family. Song Ye's men were delighted and said they were willing to follow Boss Jiang anywhere. Jiang Bai ordered them out and asked who the boss was. Song Ye's people shouted loudly that Boss Jiang was great and supported him. Earlier, the system reported that Jiang Bai had obtained the War God card. After activating the card, it would become invincible for 30 seconds with no side effects. Jiang Bai realized that this was exactly what he needed. After all, 30 seconds was enough. At this time, Zhang Ye was talking to Wang and couldn't believe what had happened. Wang said the professionals were trashed and it was all done by one young guy. Zhang Ye decided to forget about it, but he admitted that the guy wasn't holding back at all. He said that Jiang Bai was like a new dragon and offered to mediate. Zhang Ye wanted to see this new monster for himself. Jiang Bai returned home, lay down on the bed, and finally felt relieved. The system congratulated him and informed him that he had received 2,000 prestige points. Jiang Bai was overjoyed and said that it was a good day. The system apologized and said that the reward was halved due to the War God card. Jiang Bai cursed, blamed the system, and decided to sleep first. He fell asleep, leaving everything for tomorrow. When the new day arrived, Jiang Bai decided to take a walk and thought that he had slept like a log last night and was very tired, then wondered what book to read today. He heard a voice where a woman asked him if he was Jiang Bai and introduced herself as Liu Ruonan from Tiandu's Criminal Investigation Department. Jiang Bai greeted him politely and asked how he could help Officer Liu. Liu said a reliable source had reported his presence in yesterday's incident and looked forward to cooperating. Jiang Bai replied that he didn't know what he was talking about and had been sleeping at home all day yesterday. Liu got angry and told him to stop lying, because so many people had died yesterday and the survivors had seen him. The man next to Liu asked her not to provoke Jiang Bai, as he was rumored to kill people in seconds. Jiang Bai calmly said that even if it was true, they had no proof, and asked what they would do next. Liu Yi was confused and asked what he wanted. The man asked worriedly if she was all right. Jiang Bai said he didn't want anything and teased Officer Liu, calling her beautiful. Liu became enraged, called him a shameless man, and declared an arrest, ordering him not to resist. At this moment, Jiang Bai disappeared. Liu Yi asked in shock how he could have disappeared. The man said that even Zhang Chengyong wasn't pressing charges and suggested that he take care of other matters. Liu angrily said that she would wait for proof and then he would answer for everything. Jiang Bai was already in Song Ye's car, which was parked nearby. Song Ye jokingly asked if this was his new girlfriend. Jiang Bai replied that he wouldn't get involved with such a troublesome woman and asked why Song Ye had come personally. Song Ye said that Zhang Chengyong sent people and handed over an invitation from Zhao Ye for dinner. Jiang Bai was surprised by the respectful tone and asked who Zhao Ye was. Song Ye explained that Zhao Ye, aka Zhao Wuji, is a hidden dragon, and the real master of Tiandu City. Jiang Bai realized that it was the Tiandu leader, agreed to meet him, and told him to pick him up at Two-Way Hall that evening. In the evening, Song Ye came to pick up Jiang Bai. Song Ye asked what the plan was. Jiang Bai said that there was no plan and they would just enter, noting that the place looked impressive. A man came up to them, introduced himself, and said that Boss Zhao Ye was already waiting inside. Song Ye was surprised by the reception. Zhang Bai chuckled and noted the strange politeness. Song Ye was surprised that this particular person was sent to meet them, noting that after the incident with Zhang Changgen, the attitude had clearly changed and Zhao Ye must be impressed with his older brother. The man replied that it was a pleasure to accompany Mr. Zhang and invited them to go inside. He announced the arrival of a guest and apologized for bothering me. Zhao Ye said that it was wonderful, and they had been waiting for Mr. Zhang for a long time. Master Chai Shenfo remarked that he had heard about Zhang's strength, but he didn't expect him to be so young, calling him a hero of the younger generation. Zhao Ye asked for help to get up. The servant immediately responded and supported him. Song Ye said that he would introduce everyone to Big Brother. Zhao Ye introduced himself as Zhao Wuji and said that he was glad to meet you and had been looking forward to this meeting for a long time. Zhang Bai thought that he didn't expect to see Zhao Ye in such a bad state due to illness. Zhao Ye said that it was an honor to meet Zhang. Master Chai modestly pointed out that he was just a retired old man. Zhao Ye explained that Master Chai Shenfo is Song Ye's teacher and one of the 3 national masters of China. Zhang Bai said that he was honored to be marked like this, but inwardly thought that this was a real national grandmaster with frightening strength. Cha said that he was curious about the current level of Zhang cultivation. Zhang Bai replied that he had heard from Song Ye that Master Chai had disappeared for 10 years, choosing to live a normal quiet life in the north. Chai confirmed that he was tired of the modern world and invited Zhang to join him and live in peace. Zhang Bai refused, saying that he didn't dare impose and remained a junior. Chai argued that age was irrelevant and said that he could recognize Zhang as his younger brother. Zhang Bai was shocked. Song Ye jumped up and asked the teacher to take it back. Chai said that Song Ye was only a disciple and was now obligated to call Zhang uncle. Song Ye couldn't believe his ears and asked if he understood correctly. Cha declared that he now recognized him as a disciple and ordered him not to call himself a teacher anymore. Zhang Bai chuckled and asked, "Isn't this good?" Song Ye happily said that the teacher finally recognized him as a disciple. Song Ye recalled his childhood and conversations with his teacher about eyebrows, death, and fate. He remembered how his teacher had rudely but honestly taught him to live and not kill unnecessarily. These were his memories. Song Ye knelt in front of Zhang and said that he would call him uncle from now on and asked him to take care of him. Chai ordered Song Ye to get up immediately. Zhao Ye laughed and said that they were back to the master-disciple relationship again, suggesting that they continue the conversation at the table during the meal. Zhao Ye said that Brother Jiang had recently issued an ultimatum to old man Changyong, but he hoped that everyone understood that they had been partners for many years. Jiang replied that he understood and asked what Zhao Ye was suggesting. Zhao Ye said that they will try to make up for everything, but asked to turn a blind eye to the wrongdoing. Changyong sincerely asked Jiang to forget about disagreements and hopes for cooperation in the future. Zhao Ye showed Jiang a few assets that he was willing to hand over to show his sincerity. Jiang thought of $20 million, a pearl in the Upper Linjin district, and 2 bars, all of which he estimated to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Changyong clarified that the amount is slightly more than 300 million, and if this is not enough, it will take more time to recover. Jiang said it was fine, no more need, and thanked Zhao Ye. Zhao Ye saw that Jiang was being generous and offered him a drink. As everyone started to leave, Jiang said goodbye and wished Zhao Ye good health. Zhao Ye replied goodbye, calling Jiang young master. Jiang noted that everything ended without any problems and turned to Song Ye. Song Ye asked what Jiang wanted, and Jiang said to call him big brother or boss and asked for his opinion on the situation. Song Ye said about the Xiangnan Pavilion that it is a luxury venue in Tiandu, with a base membership value of $5 million and assets of about 1 billion. And the number of members in a few years can be counted on your fingers. Jiang said that if you need something, just take it. And Song Ye asked if Big Brother Li said it. Jiang pointed out that he will get a membership within a year. If Zhao Ye has one, then they will have one, otherwise they are not worthy. Song Ye remarked that it sounded a little crazy and Jiang told him to shut up and drive. Song Ye understood and went, and Jiang added that he would be right there. A week later, Song Ye asked where they were going, and Jiang said to go to the bank. Song Ye wondered why he wasn't asked to withdraw money directly, to which Jiang replied that there was one thing to do. Jiang went to the ATM, called his parents and said that he had transferred $200,000 to them, that the money was honestly earned and that this was a bonus for helping the police. He said not to worry about the money and use it as needed, and said goodbye. The system gave out a reward for deference, 1,000 prestige points and an intermediate lottery, with a total score of 10,000 points. Hong told Song Ye to wait for him to get busy and dial him. Song Ye agreed and went for a short walk, while Jiang thanked him and said that they would see each other later. The slot machine appeared in front of Jiang. He said that he had met with him and wanted to get something worthwhile and spun the machine. A special skill has dropped out in the slot machine. The system congratulated him that he had obtained a special recovery skill, Super Recovery. You can use it to heal any wounds. This skill was a weakened version of immortality. It didn't repair the limbs, skull and bones, or most of the organs. A skill could be upgraded for 100,000 prestige points to the highest degree. Zhang took out a knife and decided to cut his hand to check. The wound began to heal immediately. He was thrilled. He couldn't wait to upgrade the skill to the latest version of immortality. I thought I should earn as many prestige points as possible. Songya noticed the blood on his hands and asked what was wrong. Zhang said to score. He was thinking about how to get 100,000 points to improve the skill. The next day, Zhang met with Mr. Ma. He was surprised that he was here so early. Ma greeted Zhang. Zhang said that it was possible to relax and be at ease. Miss Yao brought the information he requested. Zhang was surprised that she was here. Mr. Ma explained that the company exists because of her. She was the president of the company and very talented for her age. Zhang was surprised and said that he didn't expect this. Yao offered to formally introduce herself. Zhang reciprocated. They punched their fists, testing each other. Yao said she was in pain. Zhang told her to let go first. They didn't give up. Mr. Ma asked Yao to explain the situation with the company. He said that he had a meeting with Mr. Shu and it was time to leave. Yao came in with Zhang. She invited him to sit down wherever he wanted. Zhang noted the stylish office. Yao said that she had heard about his investment of $20 million. He also wanted to make a film on his own. Zhang said he didn't want to cause any inconvenience. Yao confessed that he piqued her interest. She snuggled up to him. Zhang pushed her away and said that he now owns the company. He suggested that we focus on our work. Yao agreed, but warned of the risks without a good script. Zhang tossed the papers on the table. He said he had a good script. Yao was surprised that the young man could write a good script. She exclaimed that it was unbelievable. Yao noted that the script is amazing. I haven't seen anything like it for a long time. The plot and story are exciting. Zhang thought it was his favorite Earth movie. River Backwaters, The True Color of Heroes. Yao wanted to know who the author was so she could hire him as soon as possible. Zhang confessed that it was him. Yao was surprised. Zhang explained that there was no point in lying. He was thinking about his luck. The little boss, the jackpot, the lady is not afraid to lose such a lucrative boss. Yao said that she would take care of the cooking. Everything would be ready within a month, but Zhang clarified what the problems were. You reminded me of the guy Tian who can interfere. Wu Tian is influential in the film industry, and if Zhang takes care of it, it will help to get rid of the annoying fly. Zhang replied that Wu Tian was trash. No problem. He decided to severely punish anyone who dares to harm his president. Yao kissed Zhang on the cheek before leaving and said that she would go get ready. Zhang thought that it would soon get hot with experienced women. In the evening, Chang and Yao arrived in a suit and dress. Yao admitted that she had never been to a high-end event at the Marriott Hotel before. Zhang said that she underestimated his abilities and advised her to just follow him. He reminded the driver to pick it up in a few hours. The driver confirmed it. Director Jin wondered why so many annoying things were happening in one day. Yao greeted Director Jin, who was also surprised by her appearance. Jin found out that Zhang was Yao's new boss, the chairman of Longtang Films. Zhang greeted Director Jin and inquired about business. Jin said he needed to do his own thing, but it was nice to meet you. They shook hands. Yu revealed that the company changed its name to Longtang Films and invited Jin to dinner next time. Jin thanked him and promised to meet him if he could spare the time. Wang walked over and asked if Jin had met Jiang personally. Jin confirmed and said that it was thanks to Yao that he met him. Wang noted that Jiang is a friend of his brother Zhao Ye and hopes that Jin will listen to his requests in the future. Jin thought that this young man was quite influential and interesting. Connected to brother Wang and Zhang Ye, he was pleased with his courteous demeanor and was willing to help Jiang in the future. As Yao followed Jiang, she was surprised that Wang knew Jiang, she thought. Isn't he the director of Tiandu Optoelectronics? What kind of deference to Jiang Bai? Did this old fox decide to give in? Wang also wondered who it was and how she was related to Jiang Bai. Jin remarked that he had heard about young Wu Tian and suggested that they have some fun together. He said that he had a couple of trump cards in his pocket and maybe they would learn something new. Jiang replied that it was just a misunderstanding and let's just leave it as it is. Jin said regretfully that he was hoping to have some fun and suggested that we go inside. Inside was Wu, who was annoyed at being kept waiting. He noticed that they were late and the door opened, where Zhang and the director entered. Wu stood up, greeted Director Jin, and was shocked to see Jiang Bai. Zhang greeted Wu, reminding him of an old acquaintance. Wu laughed and invited them to sit down. Jin reminded Wu that he was annoying his friend. Wu assured that it was a misunderstanding and would not bother his friends again. Jin asked if Jiang Bai would share the details. Zhang noted that this was true, but Wu missed the interest in Lady Yao. Wu started to beg for forgiveness, and Jin noted his romantic tendencies. Inside, Wu thought that Zhang had used Director Jin against him, and he was going to take revenge. Wang told Wu that he had no idea about his brother's friend, Zhao Ye. Wu understood who he meant and fell to his knees in front of Wang, swearing that he didn't know. Wang slapped him in the face and Wu admitted his guilt. Yao wondered if it was really Wu Tian. Wu apologized several times and asked for forgiveness. A voice rang out indicating disrespect, and Wu noticed that director Jin had said not to burn the bridges. Yu thought this was not good, and noted that unlike Wu Tian, Wu Zhong had considerable power. But would Jiang Bai be able to handle him, given his level? Wang started making paper airplanes, saying that Wu was just a boy. He added that no one has behaved like this in the underground for a long time. Wu Zhong asked Wang why he was offended. Wang let the plane fly and said that he hadn't offended him, but it was just for insulting his brother. Wang said that brother Jiang told him an interesting story about how little brother Wu wanted something that didn't belong to him. Jiang chuckled to himself, feeling what it felt like to have someone watching your back for the first time, and calmly enjoyed the moment. Wu Zhong flared up, saying that his brother was a complete idiot who would seek death himself by insulting people of this level. He promised that since Mr. Wang was showing respect, he would personally handle the compensation tomorrow. Wang pointed out that brother Jiang is not only close to him, but also to Zhao Wuji, who is extremely interested in him. He added that he could help talk to Zhao Ye if he wanted. Zhao Ye's name made Wu Zhong turn pale. Wang casually mentioned that Zhang Chengen, that old madman, had come to a bad end. Wu Zhong realized with horror that the man in front of him was the same monster who had single-handedly stopped hundreds of armed men and the national master. Yao thought in shock that this was really about Jiang Bei. Wu Zhong cursed as he fully realized how bad it was. He started beating up his younger brother, calling him a pathetic scum with no brains. Yao turned away, unable to watch. Zhang calmly stopped what was happening, saying that it was enough. Wu Zhong said that if necessary, he was willing to eliminate his brother completely, just to fix everything. Zhang replied that he didn't care, but reminded him that he was harassing Miss Yao next to him. Wu Zhong promised that if he ever showed up in front of Yao again, he would tie him up and destroy him himself. After that, Wu Zhong promised to pick up his brother, clean him up, and repay the debt in the future. Wang asked Jiang Bai if he thought such methods were acceptable. Jiang replied that he was satisfied. Everyone was alive and the benefits were received. He offered to pour Vaughn a drink as a sign of respect for his methods. As everyone started to leave, Wang and the headmaster said goodbye to Jiang. Jiang was left alone with Yao. He asked her what she thought. Yao admitted that she couldn't figure out who he really is, because such people don't just appear. Jiang calmly replied that he was nothing but an ordinary devil. Jiang felt that there were many challenges ahead, but with the right team and a clear strategy, he would be able to realize his goals without problems. He recalled his recent successes and exploits, which showed that even difficult tasks were up to him. Jiang was thinking about the future of the film, and how important it was to start right so that the project would be both financially and creatively successful. Yao saw him as a confident, strong person who was able to overcome obstacles and ensure the safety of loved ones. Jiang understood that his influence and capabilities would allow the project to develop smoothly. All participants will feel protected and supported. He looked at Yao and thought that it was important not only to make a film, but also to strengthen the team so that everyone felt important and involved. The process of preparing for filming took several days, but thanks to joint efforts, everything went smoothly and without delays. Jiang was quietly glad that his resources, experience, and determination allowed him to create something meaningful while also strengthening his personal connections. Jiang decided that he would go with Lin to the party and entrusted her with all the preparations. Lin agreed, promising that everything would be ready and they would meet in the evening. When they arrived, Lin noticed that everything was already prepared. Her friend exclaimed happily when she saw Jiang. The atmosphere was lively. Lin explained that it was the two of them who were waiting for them. Jiang apologized for being a little late, and the girls began to playfully flirt with him. They noticed how attractive he looked, and were surprised by their relationship. At this time, Liu Li and Ma Shuyuan joined in, adding to the party's excitement. Liu Li apologized for the short delay, explaining the unforeseen events. Ma Shuyuan hurried to introduce everyone, noting the quiet Li Ping and energetic Liu Li. She mentioned that both of them already have boyfriends, but that doesn't interfere with communication. Jiang watched everything with a reserved expression, keeping an eye out for what was happening. Liu Li said that the car was already waiting, and they would go to the Marriott Hotel. All the girls were amazed by the luxury, commenting on the cost and atmosphere of the place. Jiang just watched calmly, thinking that the money was nothing because it didn't matter to him. Liu Li noted that the guy is very generous and she likes it. Everything is arranged perfectly. When the car arrived, the girls happily went to the hotel. Liu Ping pointed out that the place was too expensive, but Liu Li assured her that everything was fine. They booked a private room, which was the best in the Marriott. The evening continued with conversation and a light toast to the health and success of the party. They discussed how beautifully decorated the place was and the cost of a private room. Liu Li said that she often visits this place with a guy, a habit that has become almost a tradition. Zhou Yu soon appeared, apologizing for being late and trying to make amends. Jiang watched him, noting that the opponent might not be so simple. Zhou Yu knew that his plans might be thwarted, and the situation would not be easy. Zhou Yu came to Liu Li's birthday party and immediately hugged her. He explained that he was late due to business on the way. Liu Li was confused and noticed that the celebration had already started. Xu Yuan grumbled in annoyance, and Lin quickly calmed her down. Zhang watched the scene unfold. He knew that this birthday would not be an ordinary one. He noticed a new girl. Her beauty and innocence stood out from the rest. It was said that she was popular at school and still didn't have a boyfriend. Her presence attracted the attention of all the guests. Zhou Yu invited the guests to sit down at the table. He wanted industrial friends to help the girls in the future. The girls settled into their seats. Some remained modest, while others watched the events unfold with interest. Zhang realized that the holiday would not be easy. Influential people gathered around, ready to intervene in any situation. He carefully evaluated each guest and tried to anticipate their actions. Lin didn't want to sit next to Zhou Yu. She chose to stay where she was and watch. Liu Ping was persistent and interested. She watched the attention of the guests to the newcomer. There was a slight commotion in the room. Laughter and whispers interspersed, but Jiang remained calm. He knew that the new girl didn't know all the ins and outs of relationships at school yet. Her presence caught the attention of the other girls and boys. They whispered together, discussing her appearance and behavior. Jiang understood that controlling the situation would be necessary. He watched every movement and gesture. Jiang could see who was showing interest and who was keeping a low profile. He analyzed everyone, choosing a strategy for action. Zhou Yu tried to direct communication. He introduced the guests to each other and guided the conversations. Some girls were shy, others actively participated in the discussions. The celebration continued. The guests began to discuss gifts and congratulations. Liu Li enjoyed the attention. She smiled and accepted compliments from friends and acquaintances. The new girl remained confused. She was trying to figure out how to behave in her new company. Jiang watched her reactions. He understood that she needed support and protection. The guests gradually relaxed. The laughter grew louder, the conversation more animated. Liu Yi noticed that the new girl was still feeling awkward. She tried to cheer her up and offered her a drink. Zhang told Lin, if she didn't want to, she shouldn't drink, and remained calm. He understood that control over the situation in society is most important. Some of the youths began to show excessive attention. Zhang made sure that it didn't go out of line. The celebration continued in a lively atmosphere. Everyone enjoyed the attention and companionship. Liu Li was discussing gifts with her friends. She tried not to miss a single moment for compliments. Jiang was watching everything that was happening. He evaluated the impact of each person present. Events were developing rapidly. The new girl gradually relaxed and began to communicate. Zhang realized that the celebration was going well. He saw that the girls were getting support and attention. Liu Li felt like the center of attention. Her joy was visible to everyone present. Zhang continued to watch. He was ready to step in if necessary. The atmosphere remained friendly, but with a subtle tension, everyone followed the behavior of others. The guy Liu Ping approached the person who offered the job and enthusiastically declared that he was ready to work for him all his life if only they would take him. Jiang noticed from the outside that he actually liked his current job and wasn't going to change anything. Liu Li immediately changed the subject and suggested a drink and fun first, hinting that Jiang was probably afraid of getting drunk. Jiang directly refused, saying that he was not going to drink under any circumstances. Zhou Yu was surprised and started lecturing him, saying that half of his success was due to drinking and being able to drink. Jiang calmly replied that even though his alcohol tolerance was high, he didn't drink with just anyone and didn't consider Zhou Yu worthy. He added that no one would force him to drink, even if it was someone's birthday. Zhou Yu felt the pressure and was scared inwardly, wondering how a librarian could have such a frightening aura. One of the men who offered the job got angry and said rudely that he had never met such an impudent person, especially a bookworm. At that moment, Wu Zhong appeared and coldly remarked that he didn't expect to see him still alive after talking about Zhang's brother. Liu Li suddenly asked Jiang about money and actors, as if she didn't notice the tense situation. The man who offered the job instantly changed his tone when he recognized Wu Zhong and started fawning, trying to show respect. Zhou Yu realized that things were bad after realizing that Wu Zhong was a person from the Zhongtian group that he had already heard of. Wu Zhong politely addressed Jiang, saying that he had heard of his presence and would like to share a glass of wine with him. Jiang said he wasn't expecting a meeting, but he had no objections. Wu Zhong explained that he overheard the conversation and decided to step in, directly asking if Jiang had been insulted. Jiang explained that his cousin was tried to get drunk with foul intentions, and when he intervened, he was forced to drink. Zhou Yu knew inwardly that it was over and finally realized that Jiang Bai wasn't a librarian at all. Wu Zhong offered to handle the situation on his own. If Jiang didn't mind, Jiang briefly agreed. Wu Yong pointed at the problem people and told them to come closer with a cold grin. One of them tried to say something, but Wu Zhong didn't hesitate to punch him in the face. He said harshly that he didn't care who they were, and that there was always a price to pay for disrespect. Liu Li's friends were at a loss and were trying to figure out what was going on here, and if someone was really fighting. Liu Li secretly wondered how such an ordinary librarian could be familiar with Wu Zhong. Wu Zhong turned to the men he had beaten up and asked if they still wanted to force his brother Zhang to drink, implying that they were cowards. He stated that if they liked to drink so much, they should each drink 3 bottles of vodka while Liu Li and her friends watched. Those who fail will die with their families on the Tiandu River. There was a deathly silence, and Wu Zhong made sure that everyone understood his threat. Jiang Bai privately doubted whether this man was really Wu Tian's brother, since they were so different, and wondered why Wu Zhong would threaten to kill the men's families. One of the men said that 3 bottles of vodka would kill them, but Wu Zhong said he didn't care, and asked who wanted to go first. The man begged and begged to be released, and Wu Zhong asked for his men to be called in to watch what was happening. Jiang Bai thanked him and asked if Wu Zhong would give a roof warning before the two of them had a few drinks. Wu Yong agreed, adding that his friends could wait, and also demanded that the table be cleaned and completely polished. Jiang Bai called out to Lin, who was chatting with her friend. He mentioned that he needed to discuss some things with Wu Zhong, and in the meantime, he and the girls could go book a room. Lin coldly agreed, and she and her friends went to another room. After they drank, they were about to go home, and Wu Zhong reported that he had always wanted to have a drink with Zhang, and today it finally happened. He also explained that he had arranged to bring his cousin and her classmates back to school, so Jiang Bai didn't need to worry. Wu Yong said that his friend invited him to a party where there would be something special, and offered Jiang Bai to go with him, but he refused, explaining that he had plans and thanked him for the invitation. They were parting ways, and Jiang Bai offered to meet again if there was a chance. The next day, there was shouting at the school. Someone recognized Jiang, and a girl came up to him with food, explaining that they just wanted to bring a snack. When the food was handed over, there was an argument between the girls over who Jiang Bai was looking at. Jiang Bai felt uncomfortable as he was being groped, and the girls continued to pester him. He thought to himself that he wanted to get rid of these abnormal women. At this moment, Jiang Bai received a call and was informed by the phone that filming was starting and he needed to come over to help promote the scene and plot. Jiang agreed and thought to himself that the phone had saved him, because now that he was going to go to Gus's studio, he wouldn't have to deal with the hungry and obsessive demon girls that surround him every day. Jiang Bai decided to take the bus and asked the driver to stop at the right place. On the way, he noticed that the bus rides were too boring for him. When he arrived at his destination, he saw a large number of people who, like him, were waiting for someone. At first, Jiang Bai thought he couldn't see his own name, but as he got closer, he noticed a guy with a poster that said, "Writer Jiang Bai." The guy immediately went to him, introduced himself as Fu An, and confessed that he didn't expect Jiang to arrive so early. Jiang Bai noticed that the man looked very awkward. Fu An said that he had already read the script and found it extremely exciting. He also asked if Jiang Bai was aware of the situation inside the production team. Jiang replied that he didn't know. Fu An was overly active and persistent, clearly wanting to share the news. Jiang Bai agreed to listen to him, even though he thought to himself that this guy was acting like he hit his head when he was a kid. Fu An explained that the project is directed by Chen Daoyun, and the cast includes 2 superstars, one of whom is a famous heartthrob from the TBS drama series. He also mentioned that the director's latest drama failed and caused serious losses. He added that the film itself will be sent later, and Jiang's participation in the project was made possible thanks to the director's personal recommendation. Although the payment was not too high, Jiang Bai asked who the second superstar was. It turned out that this is an actor who has not acted for a long time, but in the past was quite popular. When they arrived at the site, the filming of one of the shots was already in full swing. The scene turned out to be a success, and the director thanked everyone for their work, separately noting that Zhou Fa did a great job today. Jiang Bai also clapped, emphasizing that the game was truly amazing. The director, in turn, praised Jiang's script, calling it almost divine, and noting his obvious talent. Jiang Bai modestly replied that he was being overestimated. After that, the director asked Zhou Fa to come over and meet Jiang. Zhou Fa asked with genuine surprise if he really wrote such a strong script at such a young age, and admitted that he couldn't hold back tears when he first read it. He added that he doubts whether he is worthy of playing this role, but still wants to try and promises not to let him down. Finally, he thanked Jiang Bai with a respectful bow. Jiang Bai noted that the actor did a great job in his role and managed to get used to it deeply, for which Zhou Fa sincerely thanked him. Watching this, Jiang Bai thought that this was indeed a talented person. For an aspiring actor, he was surprisingly modest, collected, and not arrogant. Inwardly, Jiang decided that this guy was worth paying attention to in the future, as such people were rare in the industry. With a wave of his hand, the director signaled that work was done for the day and announced that the entire team could celebrate a successful day of shooting. The news was greeted with joy. The cast and staff quickly brightened up, The atmosphere became noticeably lighter, and the whole group went to celebrate the completion of filming. After the celebration, Jiang Bai decided not to linger. He said goodbye to everyone, noting that tomorrow he will meet with the team again for further work. When he left the meeting place, he walked alone and used Bajiquan techniques on the way, reflecting that the internal strength of this technique was especially useful for restoring the body and removing alcohol. At one point, he heard a voice behind him and thought ironically that he had never believed in ghosts. But if they really existed, this world would be a much more violent place. He walked towards the source of the sound and soon noticed a girl sitting on a bench crying softly. Seeing this scene, Jiang Bai thought for a moment that among all the strange situations, especially in the middle of the night, this was the last thing he expected to see. And he even thought of something otherworldly. Coming closer, he deliberately scared the girl, and then asked the reason for her tears, making it clear that he was ready to help. The girl took this as another mockery and said with despair that everyone was mocking her. The director, his deputy, other actors, and now even him. Jiang Bai tried to find out why so many people were constantly hitting on her, but all he got was accusations of hypocrisy and bullying. He noted that with such behavior, it is really difficult to resist teasing, because there is something touching and cute about her that involuntarily makes you want to make a joke. The words stunned her, especially when she realized that he genuinely thought she was cute. Jiang Bai added that he had seen quite a few beautiful and outstanding women in his life, but based on personal experience, none of them made the same impression on him as she did. The words were unexpectedly soft and contrasted sharply with his earlier tone, causing her to lose track of her tears. Jiang Bai sat down next to him and remarked that the entertainment industry is not an easy place and far from ideal. It has its own dark sides and shortcomings. The girl was lost in thought and asked what she should do next in this situation. Jiang Bai calmly reasoned that in this area, one usually either sells one's talent or one's body, and many people don't see any other way. This provoked a sharp reaction from her. She flared up, not wanting to put up with the idea that she would have to let others touch her, because she absolutely did not want to. Jiang Bai asked her name and asked if she was a student. The girl introduced herself as Ye Qing Chen and said that she was studying at the State University of Film and Television. She had come here with her classmates, but she didn't expect that the director would only take advantage of the situation to pester her. They were supposedly just going to eat and drink, and even though she didn't drink herself and wasn't forced to, she clearly felt that her presence there was unwelcome, so she ran away. She assumed that her classmates were still sitting, drinking and singing with the director, pretending that nothing had happened. Jiang Bai wondered why she was putting up with this at all, and whether the entertainment industry was really so valuable to her that it was worth putting up with all this, or if she was just dreaming of becoming a star. Ye Qingchen confessed that her mother was an actress, and that was why she had always dreamed of becoming a big star like her mother. Jiang Bai noted that it was obvious that in the current situation, she was unlikely to be given a normal chance, and wondered if she really wanted to go back. In response, the girl panicked and almost shouted that she did not want to go back there again. She also remembered that she had left her documents and money at the hotel when she ran away, because she hadn't even thought about it at the time. Jiang Bai privately noted that this girl was a nuisance, but still said that if she didn't want to go back, he could help her. He introduced himself by giving his name and explained that he was a screenwriter from the Longtang studio team and also offered her a role in his film. The girl was shocked by what she heard, hardly believing in the seriousness of his words. She hurriedly thanked him, calling him a good person, and agreed to go with him. Suddenly, she fainted, and Jiang Bai was surprised to try to figure out what was wrong. He scooped her up in his arms and thought ironically that he shouldn't have expected something serious, because it was just hunger. They went to a restaurant where he treated her to a meal. She enthusiastically said that everything was delicious and that this was the first time she had ever tasted it, adding that her sister always told her not to eat dirty food, although even the rat meat in this Chinese cafe seemed delicious to her. Jiang Bai thought that she probably came from a poor background, just like her sister, judging from her words. Ye Qingchen admitted that she was sleepy and suggested that we go back to the hotel. Jiang Bai privately noted that she was either too naive or just plain stupid and asked for the bill. He also warned her not to say such things in public again, otherwise she might be misunderstood. The girl genuinely didn't understand what she had said wrong. At this moment, two guys came over, one of whom noticed with a sneer that Jiang Bai was already leaving and was apparently in a hurry to have fun with this little girl, suggesting that he share and let them also play with her. Jiang Bai coldly noted that the dessert was already served and that they should disappear from his sight if they wanted to stay alive. He gave them 3 seconds to count down. When the countdown ended, Jiang Bai abruptly punched one of the guys right in the face. He noted that he gave them a chance to leave, but they didn't listen, so they shouldn't blame him for the consequences. After that, he continued to beat up the opponent, not letting him come to his senses. Guests of the restaurant looked at each other in shock and doubted whether to call the police, because what was happening looked too serious. When Jiang Bai finished with the first one, he calmly walked over to the second one and let it be known that it was his turn. Some of the customers were surprised to think that the man had teleported. So fast were Jiang's movements. He kicked the other man in the jaw and noted with cold indifference that he might have put in too much force, hoping that he wouldn't die after all. The young man began to choke, cough, and vomit blood, to which Jiang Bai indifferently noted that he was still alive. Ye Qing said with admiration that he was incredibly strong and called him Big Brother for the first time. Jiang Bai suggested that she leave this place immediately, noting that his arm was starting to go numb. Ye Qing held onto his windbreaker and said that he was the first person to side with her other than her sister. She also admitted that what she saw was amazing, and stated that she also wanted to be as strong, asking him to teach her kung fu. Jiang Bai noted that this is extremely difficult to teach anyone. He appealed to the owner of the restaurant with a request to issue an invoice and compensate for all possible losses for this evening, apologizing for what happened. The owner looked at his phone and saw that $450 had already been credited to his account. Jiang Bai and Ye Qing went outside, and the girl reported that a classmate had just called her. Jiang Bai noted that the reaction came too quickly. On the phone, a classmate screamed in panic, asking where Ye Qing had gone, and reported that the director was furious and was trying to blacklist her from the entertainment industry, threatening to strip her of future roles if she didn't come back and apologize. Ye Qing, overcome with fear, said that she didn't want to go back under any circumstances. Jiang Bai took the phone and coldly remarked that the other party was too noisy, then abruptly cut her off, saying that he would deal with the situation himself and demanded to know the address. They told him it was 306 Royal Amusement Road and asked him who he was and where Liu was now. Jiang Bai rolled up his sleeves and thought about the blacklist with a grim smile, deciding to personally see which director had the guts to do such a thing and whether he even understood who he was messing with. When Jiang Bai and Ye Qing arrived at the scene, they saw the director sitting next to her classmate. She immediately began to reprimand Ye Qing, asking why she would do such a thing, since the director was already going to get rid of her. The classmate claimed that she promised to stay and keep him company, thus saving the situation, and now Ye Qing should be grateful to her. The director was defiant. He allowed himself to openly touch a classmate and then made it clear that Ye Qing should come and sit next to him. He made it clear that if he obeyed, he was willing to hush up what had happened. The classmate, on the other hand, behaved ingratiatingly and played along with him. The director increased the pressure by demanding that Ye Qing immediately come over and take a seat next to her, promising her a role in return. Jiang Bai intervened, rudely interrupting the scene and openly insulting the director. The director responded by grabbing Jiang Bai and mockingly demanding an explanation, ordering him to get out. Jiang Bai coldly made it clear that the last person to do such a thing had ended extremely badly. In the next instant, he slammed his palm down hard on the table, then smashed the bottle over the director's head. The director screamed in pain, hurling curses and threats at Jiang Bai. He declared that he would finish him off and that Jiang was finished. Jiang Bai calmly asked if it was really going to kill him, and then slowly approached. This dramatically changed the director's behavior. He was afraid and began to beg him not to approach. Jiang Bai grabbed him by the throat, lifted him up, and introduced himself. The director panicked and confessed that he had never heard the name before. Jiang Bai explained that he is a scriptwriter for one of the teams and currently works as a librarian at Tiandu University. He reminded the director of the unspoken rules of the entertainment industry, according to which no one has the right to touch his team, and even more so his sister. The director tried to make a joke out of it and doubtfully asked if Ye Qing was really his sister. Jiang Bai coldly replied that she had become one from now on, and asked if there were still any problems. He made it clear that the director dared to cross the line, touching his team and his sister, and this cannot remain without consequences. Jiang Bai grabbed the director by the scruff of the neck and coldly advised him. In his place, he wouldn't even dare to dream of such a position, although the director could still try if he dared. He also made it clear that the director was going to die a miserable death. The classmate was already crying, and Jiang Bai added that he had better go to the hospital immediately, otherwise he would just bleed out. When Jiang Bai finished, he told Ye Qing that it was time for them to leave. The director jumped up abruptly and, choking with rage, promised that he would never forget this hatred. Ye Qing quietly asked where they were going now. Jiang Bai calmly replied that they were heading to her room. When they entered the room, Ye Qing doubtfully asked if he would definitely not peek and asked him to promise. Jiang Bai indifferently assured her that it wouldn't happen. While Ye Qing was changing her clothes, Jiang Bai noticed that she really seemed to think he was capable of such a thing. He also noticed that the hotel was packed, all the rooms were booked, and he still couldn't believe that he would have to spend the night in the same room with this girl. He started eating the noodles, wondering why he had gotten involved in this situation in the first place. However, he himself offered to help, and therefore decided not to think anymore and just do as he sees fit. Lying on the bed, he thought that today was just another bad day. At this moment, Ye Qing said that she had finished changing and asked if he wanted to take a shower. Zhang Bai replied that he had already done so. After a while looking at the ceiling, he suddenly noticed Ye Qing in her underwear and robe. Ye Qing let out a loud cry when she noticed that he had taken off his mask, and Zhang Bai explained that he didn't know that she was still changing clothes. Ye Qing indignantly called him a pervert, and Zhang Bai dryly pointed out that he hadn't looked at her naked body at all. After that, the lights were turned off and they went to bed. During the night, Zhang Bai started snoring, causing Ye Qing to be unable to sleep. She quietly asked if he was still asleep, but when he didn't answer, she cautiously moved closer. She admitted that, despite the fact that they met only today, he was the only person who took her side, except for his sister. She also thought that during the fight, he looked frighteningly strong, but also incredibly cool and handsome. Ye Qing continued her thoughts, glad that he probably couldn't hear her. Otherwise, she would have had to burn with shame and hide. She decided that meeting him that day was truly special. At this moment, Zhang Bai surreptitiously lifted his mask, revealing that he had actually heard every last word. In the morning, Ye Qing shook Zhang Bai's clothes and woke him up, letting him know that it was time for him to get up. She asked if he would have breakfast, adding that if she wanted to, she could cook everything herself. She also mentioned that she even has some clothes that he can wear today. Zhang Bai agreed to eat something light. After putting on his glasses, he prepared to leave and informed Ye Qing with a show of importance that he had found a job for her. When he got to the set, he loudly asked if it was true that 2 actors who were involved in an accident are now in the hospital. He was told that the fractures were not too serious, but it still greatly disrupts the shooting schedule, and director Chen is currently in an extremely bad mood. Zhang Bai said that he had an idea, and added that today Ye Qing was extremely lucky to be the protagonist. Ye Qing was stunned by the news, and immediately made it clear that she wasn't sure she could handle such a role. At this time, director Chen was demanding to find a replacement immediately, not wanting to waste a single second. The actors justified themselves by saying that the search was already underway. But in his mind, the director called them a useless crowd. Zhang Bai greeted the director and noticed that he looked particularly cheerful today. Chen recognized him and noted that he was in a big mess right now. Zhang Bai relayed the team's words and reassured the director, stating that he had brought the actress to the female lead, offering to rate her and expressing confidence that there would be no disappointment. The director praised him for his work and agreed to take a look at the girl. Zhang Bai called Ye Qing over, and she politely introduced herself. Chen immediately asked where he found her, noting that she looked just perfect, cute, charming, and incredibly beautiful. He also added that today, the schedule for the female role is not too tight. After that, the director suggested that Zhang Bai help out and play the male lead himself, figuring that, since they knew each other, they would be able to convincingly play the main roles of the couple. Zhang Bai immediately tried to refuse, citing his lack of experience. But the director reminded him that there was simply no one to replace the actor right now. And after all, he was a writer and knew the text practically by heart. Zhang Bai wanted to protest, but the director interrupted him, threatening to call Yao Yao and inform her of the new girl who would have to be dealt with. In his mind's eye, Zhang Bai realized that the problems with Yao Wei were already serious enough. And with this sly woman, things would only get worse. In the end, he gave up and asked only not to call her, promising to do everything that was required. The director was pleased and praised him for his obedience. 3 days later, on the set, Zhang Bai deftly dodged, feigning a punch at the actor. The other party was displeased and called his punch a mean one, while Zhang Bai smiled and said complacently that it was a very good one. The director announced that the scene was shot and praised the punch, which turned out to be clean and effective. He noted that it was a great result for Zhang Bai. Actor Hu noticed that Zhang Bai's performance was getting better and better every day, clearly progressing rapidly. Zhang Bai thanked him, calling him Big Brother, and admitted that he still had a lot to learn. Ye Qing walked up to Zhang Bai, said that he was working very hard and handed him the water. Zhang Bai thanked her for her concern. The director noted that Zhang Bai has already acquired certain skills and has become noticeably more confident. Zhang Bai replied that he was only following the director's instructions, adding that it was really difficult for him to get used to the role at first. The director noted with a smile that he rarely hears praise in his address, but as long as he makes great films, everything suits him. He also acknowledged that Zhang Bai is truly talented and stressed how much he values his team. At that moment, 2 men approached the set, demanding that the director come out to them. The director reacted calmly, asking if the management fee was the reason they were here, and reminded him that everything had been paid for recently, suggesting that he check it out with Qi Ji-yun. Hearing this name, the men changed their tone and said that they would not bother the director anymore. However, they immediately inquired if Zhang Bai was among those present, stating that he had seriously offended their friend and that they had come for revenge today. One of the actors warned Zhang Bai not to approach these people, as they were obviously looking for trouble, and suggested that he let director Chung handle the situation. As he was good at handling such matters, Soon, a voice announced confidently that the management fee was in his possession. After that, a man with security guards appeared and demanded that the uninvited guests leave the set, at the same time asking the director if these people caused him problems. Director Chung confirmed that they were causing trouble for the actors and asked them to simply remove them from the set. Expressing gratitude, the man turned to Wang Qiang, saying that he did not know how Jiang Bai had offended him, but offered to settle the situation through an apology. Wang Qiang abruptly refused, saying that Jiang Bai beat up his friend and sent him to the hospital, while he calmly continues to act in films. He stressed that his friend is his brother Huang Sani, who is also a director, and he will not accept any apologies, wanting a brutal punishment. The actor worriedly told Jiang Bai that the situation was extremely bad and advised him to leave Gusu City as soon as possible. Jiang Bai just clicked his tongue and said that there was no need for him to leave and worry about it. The actor tried to explain that Huang Sani is an extremely powerful figure in Gusu. His influence is measured in hundreds of millions, and he often hires dangerous people to interfere in the industry, making him a serious threat. Ye Qing asked in confusion what they should do now. Jiang Bai also noted with a grin that he must have provoked Big Uncle from Gusu, and added that he didn't care at all. The actor in despair noted that Jiang Bai was acting like a child and didn't take everything seriously, warning that if he didn't leave now, he might not get out later. He mentioned an acquaintance with a high position in the local government who could help him leave immediately. Jiang Bai calmly told everyone not to worry, assuring them that he would be fine. The man who had previously promised to help confessed that he could no longer interfere and told Director Chung that now Jiang Bai would have to get out on his own. He apologized and added that he would refund the management fee later. Director Chung cursed furiously, realizing that the situation was completely out of control. The same man turned to Wang Qiang, warning him that since this was already Huang Sani's problem, he would not interfere, but if he dared to harm anyone else on the film crew, he would personally find him. After that, he ordered them to pick up Jiang Bai and get out. Wang Qiang replied with a sneer that he wasn't going to touch the others, as he had come solely for Jiang Bai. However, he immediately added that there was another person that he was interested in. He continued by saying that he would also take the girl named Ye Qing Chen, emphasizing that she was the one who started this whole thing, and Huang Sani was dragged into the conflict because of her fault. The man who had asked for help earlier stopped him in surprise, not understanding what kind of girl he was talking about. Wang Qiang explained with a grin that she was important to him, as Huang Sani had recently met someone important in Tiandu. He said that he had to take her away if he wanted to reach out to this person, adding that he did not have to explain anything to anyone and was not fully aware of what was happening. One of the actors stepped forward and stated that, regardless of the price, the entire team was one family, and Jiang Bai was part of it, so they wouldn't just let him be taken away. Ye Qing raised her hand and hesitantly offered to call her sister, suggesting that she might be able to help in this situation. Jiang Bai waved it off, saying that there was no need since he had someone to call. The actor was surprised to ask who he was talking about. Jiang Bai calmly replied that he also had a rather influential friend in Tiandu who was able to easily settle such problems. After that, Jiang Bai dialed Song Ye. Song Ye immediately recognized him and reacted happily, noting that he hadn't heard from him in a long time, and added that he was just doing business for him. He asked if Jiang Bai was currently in Gusu, and if there were any problems. He also revealed that he had recently made a new friend who was originally from Gusu and had a lot of influence. According to him, he was delighted with the stories about Jiang Bai and considered him his idol. Song Ye added that the man had been wanting to meet Jiang Bai for a long time, and he also didn't mind seeing him and discussing everything, promising to contact him and arrange a meeting. The actor turned to Jiang Bai and asked in bewilderment who all these people were and how strong his friend was. Wang Qiang's men began to rush Jiang Bai, mockingly claiming that his friend hadn't shown up and the wait had already dragged on, accusing him of trying to stall for time. At that moment, Huang Sani appeared on the platform. The director recognized him and noted with alarm that he had come in person. Doubting whether Jiang Bai could handle such a figure, Huang Sani looked at Jiang Bai and coldly said that he recognized him, and that this time, in his opinion, things had already gone too far. Wang Qiang's men tried to defuse the situation by telling Huang Sani to relax, as they could deal with such a small matter themselves. Suddenly, Huang Sani stepped forward and bowed respectfully to Jiang Bai, introducing himself and expressing his pleasure at meeting him. The actors, crew members, and Wang Qiang's people were completely confused and didn't understand what was going on in the first place or why the situation had changed dramatically. Jiang Bai thought inwardly that what was happening was absurd, and he wished that someone had already explained what was going on here. Huang Sani said that he had just received a call from Song Ye, after which he immediately rushed to the scene. He mentioned that he had heard from director Yang Xing about the man who beat him up and left a scar, and now he was trying to figure out if the same person was standing in front of him. Jiang Bai understood the situation and noted that this was the new underground boss Gusu that Song Ye had mentioned. He made it clear that it was just a misunderstanding, and expressed the hope that Huang Sani would not dwell on it and let it go in peace. Wang Qiang's men immediately began to express their gratitude to Zhang Bai, clearly relieved after the abrupt change in the situation. Huang Sani added that if Wang Qiang had offended Zhang Bai in any way, a single word would be enough to settle the matter in the harshest possible way. Zhang Bai immediately put a stop to this topic, explaining that it was not necessary to go to extremes, since Wang Qiang simply did not understand what he was interfering with, and it was better to leave everything as it is. Ye Qing walked up to Zhang Bai and couldn't contain her emotions, admitting that she was very scared and seriously thought that he might be killed, after which she burst into tears. Zhang Bai gently reassured her, pointing out that her mascara was smudged, and then made it clear with confidence that her big brother was not only strong, but also influential enough to protect her from any trouble. He also promised that no matter where she is, he will always come to her aid and no one else will dare to touch her, asking her not to cry anymore. Ye Qing nodded, gradually calming down. Huang Sani tactfully said that he didn't want to interrupt, but it was already lunchtime, and offered to eat, assuring that it would be good for the girl. Zhang Bai agreed, noting that it was indeed a good time to eat, after which Huang Sani took care of the place. Zhang Bai loudly called out to director Cheng, Hu's brother, and Zhou Fa, saying that the entire team was going to have lunch. Everyone was silent for a moment, clearly not sure how to react to what was happening. Zhang Bai asked in surprise what was the matter, to which the team hurriedly replied that it was fine. Zhou Fa awkwardly remarked that they were just small actors and ordinary workers, and didn't understand how they could eat at the same table with such a large figure. Director Chung admitted that he considered himself a good judge of people, but turned out to be blind, adding that now he understands who little Jiang really is, and expressed hope that the team will not judge him for what he saw. Zhang Bai turned to Huang Sani, waited for his attention, and calmly outlined the new rule. He stated that from this day on, the film crew is no longer required to pay for anything while working in Gusu, as this is his territory, and then gave a sign to move on. Huang Sani clarified that they would only go for lunch together, then explained that he had his own club nearby. He stressed that the establishment may be inferior to the Jiangnan Pavilion, but it is still considered one of the best clubs in Gusu City and is very popular. He offered to change the situation and spend time there, assuring that the place is worthy Zhang Bai, not wanting to continue talking on the set and seeing Huang Sani's sincere zeal, finally agreed. Huang Sani immediately ordered cars to be sent for them, not wanting to waste any time. They soon left the playground and headed for the club. When they arrived at the place, Huang Sani introduced his establishment with obvious pride. The spacious hall, dim lights, expensive finishes, and lively atmosphere made it clear that a lot of money had been invested here. Zhang Bai looked around and noted that the club really did look solid and well-maintained, even if it didn't make much of an impression on him. Huang Sani, noticing his reserved reaction, said that this was only the outer part, and suggested that we go further backstage, where, according to him, there was something much more interesting. These words caused Zhang Bai to be perplexed inwardly and slightly wary. Backstage, they were met by three young girls who immediately greeted Huang Sani, clearly knowing his status well. The atmosphere here was different from the hall, more intimate, and noisy. Huang Sani enthusiastically introduced the girls as the pride of his cabaret and announced the start of the party, clearly hoping that Zhang Bai would appreciate the reception. Zhang Bai sat down in a chair and mentally noted that he didn't understand why all of this should impress him. Instead of being interested, he only felt irritated and hungry, wondering why Huang Sani had even decided to bring him here in the first place. He made it clear that Huang Sani had misinterpreted his character and intentions, emphasizing that he was not one of those ordinary young masters or power-corrupted people who sought such entertainment. At that moment, another girl appeared in the room. When Zhang Bai saw her face, his thoughts stopped for a moment. He recognized her immediately. It was Xiao Chu. The memories came back suddenly and painfully. Once they were close, genuinely loved each other and made plans for the future. Back then, Zhang Bai was in no hurry to get married, thinking that everything had its time. He remembered how she had waited for him year after year, hoping that he would keep his promise. In the end, her patience ran out, and she decided not to wait any longer, choosing her own path. He remembered her saying that they should go their separate ways, blessing each other to find their own happiness, and her sincere desire that he should live a decent and happy life, even if it was no longer her by his side. These memories echoed softly in his heart, leaving behind a dull sense of loss and regret that he had long considered forgotten. Zhang Bai watched the girl and thought that she looked like an exact replica of her from Earth, someone he had already seen before. Her movements, facial expressions, and demeanor were incredibly familiar, as if he had encountered someone from the past. He couldn't tell if this was real or just a figment of his imagination. Huang Sani noted with a joking tone that Zhang Bai seemed to like young girls. He introduced the girl Wu Xinxin to Zhang and noted her young age. The girl was polite and calm, agreeing to participate in the club program, which immediately gave the impression of neatness and obedience. Jiang Bai observed her and noted her sincerity and inner strength. He understood that Wu Xinxin was not here of her own accord, but because of the need to help her mother with the treatment, she wanted to be independent and not feel beholden to Huang Sani, so she agreed to work at the club. He noted internally that such circumstances should not fall on the shoulders of a girl, that her main purpose is to study and develop, and not to have fun or work in a club. He decided to step in and take care of all the financial matters so that Wu Xinxin could continue her training in peace. The girl was surprised and said that help had already arrived from Huang Sani. Jiang Bai insisted that the situation would now be under his control and that she could live and study in peace without incurring a debt obligation to other people. He realized that Huang Sani had overestimated his capabilities and brought the girl here for display and entertainment, and that it was hypocritical and unacceptable. Jiang Bai decided to give the girl a chance to retire so as not to put her under stress and take over the conversation with Huang Sani. He made it clear that he would no longer tolerate such actions and demanded an explanation. Jiang Bai showed firmness, showing that he was now determining what was acceptable and what wasn't. Huang Sani warned that there was a big problem ahead. Jiang Bai knew that he would not only have to protect Wu Xinxin, but also deal with the consequences of Huang Sani's actions, which could affect many people around him. He decided to act decisively to restore order and protect those caught up in the situation. Jiang Bai understood that his responsibility was no longer limited to himself, and that Wu Xinxin's safety and peace of mind depended on his actions. Huang Sani frankly told Jiang Bai about the problem his company was facing. Recently, some goods were lost in the city of Nordport, and although the loss was only about 10% of the total, it was critical for a business of this scale. The more his company grew, the harder it became to ignore such incidents. Jiang Bai immediately made it clear that he had nothing to do with domestic or international trade, much less smuggling. He wasn't trying to evade responsibility out of indifference. He just really didn't have the necessary knowledge and resources to directly interfere in such processes. Huang Sani explained that the product itself did not represent a unique value, but its value in total was estimated at a colossal amount of money. He always tried to act within the law and emphasized that his company operates much more formally than many of the old market players. That was why he couldn't solve problems using underground methods. He admitted that with the growing popularity of the company, the attention from enemies also increased. Previously, he had already had conflicts with the group from the north back when he was an unknown newcomer. Now, the old opponents clearly took advantage of the situation by deliberately holding up the goods at customs, knowing full well that they would not respond openly. Huang San knew that he was trapped. The product was new and extremely important for current contracts, and its value reached billions of dollars. If the cargo is not returned this time, the consequences can be fatal not only for the business, but also for itself. He understood that the situation was difficult for Jiang Bai, as it was forbidden to contact the northern forces directly. However, he saw the only way out through Zhao Ye, whose word in the underground world carried absolute weight. If it was he who requested the return of the goods, the issue would have been resolved instantly. Jiang Bai soberly assessed the scale of the request. He knew very well who Zhao Ye was, the de facto ruler of the Tiandu underground. However, Huang Sani, having no other choice, offered half the cost of the cargo as compensation, realizing that it was worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Jiang Bai noted that even someone as powerful as Huang Sani had limits and was forced to abide by the law despite his influence. After some hesitation, he decided to take action and contacted his man Vaughn, asking him to find Zhao Ye and help deal with the situation in Gusu City. In the conversation, Vaughn quickly understood the incident in question and immediately warned of serious complications. The problem was related to Wu Tianxin, an influential figure from Hebei province, a well-known guardian of the region and the owner of a large corporation, BIPHAITIANCIGROUP. This man became famous as a charismatic and extremely dangerous player. He achieved everything on his own, without relying on his father, and in a short time built an empire whose influence extended from the port cities to the imperial capital. It was rumored that there was an even more mysterious and powerful figure behind him. When Jiang Bai realized who he was dealing with, he realized that there was no way to solve the problem remotely. He decided to personally go to the port city, leaving Wanwu to handle the customs issues and take care of everything else. After the conversation ended, Huang Sani was genuinely grateful. He knew that regardless of the outcome, it would cause Jiang Bai quite a bit of trouble. As a token of loyalty, he swore that by becoming the leader of Gusu City's underground, he would repay this help at any cost and fulfill any demand, no matter how heavy it might be. When Jiang Bai returned home, he felt tired all at once. He lay down on the bed, stared at the ceiling, and exhaled heavily. The events of the previous day were running through his mind, and especially the thought of Huang Sani, who had once again managed to get him into trouble. This man increasingly resembled a thorn that could not be removed. Before he was completely lost in thought, the door to the room opened softly. Wu Xin entered without making too much noise and sat down next to him without asking for permission. Her appearance was unexpected and caused Zhang Bai to have mixed feelings: annoyance, worry, and a strange sense of responsibility. He knew immediately that she shouldn't be here, especially at this time of day. Thoughts of school and her studies came first, because that was what she should have been doing, not following him. His sharpness was more an attempt to push her away from a dangerous world than real anger. Wu Xin remained calm. She recalled that Huang Sani had instructed her to stay close to Zhang Bai and obey his decisions. These words only served to increase Zhang's inner irritation, as he became increasingly convinced that Huang Sani's methods were far from correct. Zhang Bai decided to take control of the situation. He made it clear that from now on, the worries that the adults had placed on her should no longer concern her. He was going to deal with Huang San's affairs and her family's problems on his own, and he told her to focus solely on school and the future that was just beginning for her. Wu Xin cautiously asked the question that had been bothering her for a long time. The answer was simple and straightforward. He had no obligations or attachments. This seemed to calm her down a little, but he immediately reminded her that she had nothing to worry about right now but studying and exams. The conversation gradually faded away. The night took its toll, and they fell asleep, each with his own thoughts. For Zhang Bai, this was a rare moment of silence before the storm that he already felt was coming. In the morning, he woke up earlier than usual and noticed the note. In it, Wu Xin wrote that she had an important exam ahead of her and asked her to call her after it. A number was left at the bottom. Zhang Bai couldn't help but chuckle. At least she was really going to go to school. As he prepared, he felt a strange, heavy sense of foreboding. A trip to the sea and a meeting with the North clearly did not promise anything simple. He knew that if he let his guard down, the price of a mistake might be too high. Zhang Bai entered the restaurant calmly, without rushing, but his eyes immediately picked out the right person. One of the men rose from his seat and beckoned to him. It was clear from his expression and demeanor that this was no ordinary customer. Jiang sat down across from him and briefly clarified the other's identity. He turned out to be Song Gui, an informant working directly for Mr. Wan. There was no threat or friendliness in his tone, just the dry efficiency of a man who was used to passing on important information and not asking questions. Song Gui reported that Mr. Wan had already taken care of customs. Formally, the way for the goods was open, and if desired, Zhang Bai could send people to pick up the cargo at any time. After that, he casually asked if Jiang was going to move further inland or stay at the sea, as if the question had a hidden meaning. Zhang Bai didn't think much of it. He made it clear that the direction didn't matter and noticed that Song Gui was too wary. However, the informant only grinned and made it clear that self-confidence in these places often ends badly. And even with the road open, not everything can always be taken out so easily. In response, Zhang Bai treated the warning with ostentatious levity, as if a trip to the port city was nothing more than a short vacation for him. However, he went straight to the main point and asked to arrange a meeting with Wu Tianxin. The rest, he said, he was going to settle personally. Song Gui's reaction was instantaneous. There was a flicker of surprise on his face that he tried to hide, but an experienced eye would have seen it easily. However, he didn't say anything back. Soon, the car was heading towards the place where Wu Tianxin was. When Jiang Bai entered, he was greeted without ceremony. Wu Tianxin carefully examined the guest, clearly not hiding his skepticism. He had expected to see someone much more mature and imposing, and he made it clear that he didn't understand why Zhao Wuji would even pay attention to such a young man. Zhang Bai reacted calmly. He didn't make any excuses or arguments, only hinted that it was up to Mr. Zhao to decide who was worthy of being his guest. More important, he said, was Wu Tianxin's true interest in this meeting. The conversation quickly became more intense. Wu Tianxin chuckled as he admitted that he had previously considered the stories about Zhang Ba as mere rumors. But now that he had seen him in person, he was beginning to doubt. Not that the rumors existed, but that they might be true. He openly ridiculed stories of incredible strength, solo fights, and near-mythical feats. To him, it all sounded like a beautiful fairy tale made up to intimidate the weak. Still, there was a curious look in his eyes, the kind that comes from someone who has decided to test a legend. The atmosphere in the room became tense. One of Wu Tianxin's guards took a step forward, and the situation hovered on the edge for a moment. However, Wu Tianxin himself stopped him with a gesture, making it clear that he didn't need to act prematurely. Zhang Bai didn't flinch. He made it clear that he wasn't here for a show of strength or idle talk. He was only interested in the goods held up at the port, and he sincerely hoped that Wu Tianxin wouldn't stoop to petty games. especially considering the scale of the problem. In response, Wu Tianxin calmly remarked that it was only a matter of one gesture for him to return this item. A single word would have been enough to decide everything in a moment. But then he asked the question that was the whole point of the meeting. Why would he do it at all? Wu Tianxin saw no reason to agree. He looked at Zhang Bai with cold interest, as if weighing whether to take the threat seriously at all. For him, it was a normal conversation of power, where the decision is made by the one who has the most resources and people. Zhang Bai, in turn, made it clear that if his demands were not met, Wu Tianxin could forget about leaving this hotel freely. As long as Zhang was here, the situation was completely under his control, and no amount of connections would help Wu Tian avoid the consequences. The answer came quickly. Wu Tianxin laughed and clapped his hands, after which armed men rushed into the room. They instantly surrounded Zhang Bai, blocking off all possible escape routes. The gun barrels were pointed at him, but Zhang himself didn't show the slightest bit of concern. He calmly threw the cigarette in Wu Tianxin's direction. He caught it easily, set it on fire, and scoffed at the taste, thinking that a young man like Jiang was hardly used to such things. Jiang just grinned, making it clear that he didn't care about other people's opinions or expensive habits. Despite the taunts, Wu Tianxin admitted that this was a rare person. He hadn't seen such arrogance and confidence in a long time, and he was willing to admit that the rumors about Zhang Bai might be partially true. However, he wasn't going to just return the goods, especially considering that Huang Sani wasn't a trustworthy person in his opinion. He suggested a way out that he thought was reasonable. If Zhang Bai brought Huang Sani and he became obedient, the goods would be returned without any conditions. Moreover, Wu Tianxin openly hinted that he would like to see Zhang Bai himself on his side. This option was rejected instantly. Zhang Bai made it clear that he wasn't going to work for anyone and demanded an immediate return of the goods. His patience was running out, and the threat was no longer hidden, but direct. Wu Tianxin, looking at the 40 armed men surrounding Jiang, thought the outcome was obvious. Even if Jiang tried to resist, he wouldn't be able to get out of here alive. He genuinely didn't understand why this young man had such confidence and why he still hadn't realized his situation. Zhang Bai, on the other hand, took a step forward and warned that if anyone moved, there would be no mercy. He wondered if Wu Tianxin really needed rivers of blood to make such a choice. But there was no longer any attempt at agreement in his voice. Laughing, Wu Tianxin agreed to the game. He stated that if Zhang Bai could take down all the people in the room and still stay alive, and then get to him, he would officially recognize him and never go against him again. That was enough. Zhang Bai wasn't going to waste any more time talking. He abruptly charged forward towards Wu Tianxin, and at that moment, it was clear that the negotiations were over and the real carnage was beginning. The first guard appeared in front of Zhang Bai. Zhang instantly attacked with a foot to the shoulder and dodged and counterattacked. 5 more guards ran up to him. The first thing he did was punch the first one in the stomach. I kicked the second one down. He quickly laid the others on the floor as well. Every move was precise, deadly. A voice came from behind. Zhang turned around and saw a 2-meter-tall giant. The guard was ready to crush him in one move. Zhang turned around. He broke the giant's arms. He screamed in pain and terror. Wu Tianxin watched this with surprise. This youth wasn't just strong. He was like an animal. Wu Tianxin gave the order to capture Jiang. One of the guards shot at him. Jiang nimbly dodged. He kicked the gunman in the face. He immediately begged for mercy. Zhang grabbed the gun. The next guard drew his katana. Zhang kicked again and opened fire on the others. The guards fell one by one. Zhang moved quickly and without hesitation. His every move was calculated. Every action is fatal. The room smelled of gunpowder and adrenaline, mixed with the screams of falling people. Jiang was in his element. He knew exactly what to do with each opponent. Wu Tianxin watched this with growing horror. None of his guards could compare to Zhang. He saw his powers crumble one by one. Zhang moved without stopping. His legs and arms were deadly. He used up the entire space of the room. Every punch, every shot is perfectly accurate. Not a single guard had time to recover. Everyone was falling under Jiang's pressure. He was clearing his way to the goal. Zhang Bai couldn't be stopped. He was like a storm, deadly, fast, accurate. Every move left chaos in its wake. Zhang began methodically killing the guards, one by one, using his pistols. His movements were fast and precise, leaving no time for his opponents to react. One of the guards tried to shoot him with a shotgun, but Zhang Bai seized the initiative and kicked him in a jump, knocking him down before the shot was fired. Wu Tian, who was watching the scene, urgently took out his phone and contacted the other guards. He ordered everyone else to go down to the first floor and not go up under any circumstances, confidently stating that the situation was under control. However, it was all over by then. The last guard fell, and only 2 people remained in the room, Zhang and Wu Tian, standing opposite each other. Zhang mockingly indicated that he would like to talk. But Wu Tian coldly made it clear that there could be no negotiations between them. Jiang suggested a simple option. Get what you want and leave without continuing the bloodshed. Wu Tian only responded with a short click. At the same time, dozens of red laser dots flashed across Jiang's body. The room was filled with scopes aimed directly at him, and Wu Tian confidently made it clear that he considered himself the winner. Jiang instantly realized that they were snipers. He mentally noted that Wu Tian was far more calculated and prepared than he appeared on the surface. However, Jiang calmly made it clear that even in such a situation, his skills could eliminate the target faster than the snipers could pull the trigger, and suggested that Wu Tian surrender. Wu Tian didn't lose his composure as he accepted the challenge, and made it clear that he was willing to go all out, even if it meant dying with the other party. He took out a cigarette, pointedly declined the cheap tobacco, mentioning its taste with disdain, and offered to try a more expensive, rare batch. Jiang only chuckled, doubting that Wu Tian's brand of cigarettes was really worth paying attention to. Both men simultaneously pointed their guns at each other, finally marking the moment when any word lost its meaning. They opened fire at the same time. The first bullets whizzed through the air, scattering around the room. They both took cover instantly, listening for the sound of gunfire and assessing the distance. Smoke swirled around them, obscuring their vision, but everyone felt tense. One false step and you could have been killed. No one was going to back down. Zhang Bai evaluated Wu Tian's movements, choosing the right moment to attack. He could see his reaction, hear him firing shots, but he was prepared for anything. Suddenly, Jiang sprinted forward. His movement was lightning fast, almost silent. Wu Tian didn't have time to react. The next second, a gunshot rang out. The bullet hit him squarely in the chest, and the blow was fatal. Wu Tian collapsed to the floor, blood spreading out on the tiles. Jiang Bai stood there, assessing the situation. He knew that killing Wu Tian was easier than he had expected, but his thoughts immediately turned to the snipers. There were too many of them. Everyone could be the last. He glanced around, noting the riflemen's positions. You need to act quickly, otherwise there will be no chance to get out. Suddenly, Wu Tian stood up. Jiang Bai blinked. He didn't expect the person who had been shot in the heart to stand up. Wu Tian calmly admitted defeat. He said he wanted to kill, but he wasn't that desperate. Jiang's victory was obvious. Jiang didn't immediately understand what was going on. It all seemed surreal, but Wu Tian remained reasonable, calm. He wasn't trying to humiliate Jiang, but was just paying tribute to his strength. It was a moment of respect, though unusual in such a dangerous situation. Jiang Bai took a step forward. He scanned the room, making sure that the snipers and other guards were no longer a threat. Wu Tian continued to calmly give orders to his men. He talked about compensating families, making sure that everything was done cleanly and quickly. Jiang Bai realized that the opponent was controlling the situation to the last, but now his will was stronger. It was at this moment that he felt like he had won, not only in physical terms but also in psychological confrontation. The scene was filled with silence after the chaos of gunfire. Every breath felt long and every look was intense. Wu Tian sat down on the floor, catching his breath, and signaled to his men to leave. Jiang Bai stood there, listening to every step. He knew that this was not the end, that there might be new challenges ahead, but at this moment he allowed himself to feel satisfied. The victory was his, and he was alive. Wu Tian, holding back his anger and annoyance, suggested that we discuss business over drinks. Jiang Bai just nodded. He knew that the main thing right now was to maintain control and get out of the situation with honor. By evening, Jiang Bai was already walking towards the house. My head was buzzing as if someone was hitting metal inside. The alcohol he'd drunk with the blonde guy was clearly making itself felt, and his footsteps were getting less confident. He muttered under his breath that he'd been pretty well unwound by the booze, and now he was barely able to stand. At some point, he didn't even know exactly where he was, and it was getting annoying. As he walked down the dark street, he noticed a strange scene. The two men were hanging around the girl too obsessively. Their demeanor was downright nasty, and their tone was cheeky and smug. One of them was clearly egging on the other, discussing her appearance and making plans without concealing their intentions. The other was already holding her hand, pulling her toward him, laughing and not taking her resistance seriously. Jiang only stopped for a second. The alcohol clouded my mind, but the revulsion was stronger. He stepped closer and punched one of the men without hesitation. The other man tried to protest, but Jiang coldly indicated that he wasn't in the mood right now and that it was best for them to disappear. The confidence in his voice took its toll, and the men immediately backed down, muttering apologies and scurrying away. Jiang took the girl's hand and led her out of the street. They headed to a nearby hotel. Everything that was happening seemed strange and a little unreal to him, as if he was acting on an automatic machine. While the girl was in the bathroom, Jiang sat up and tried to recover. My head ached, my eyes hurt, and my thoughts were confused. He was angry with himself for even getting into this situation in this state. When the girl came out, she thanked him for his help. He waved it off, making it clear that he just did what he thought was best and was about to leave. However, she offered to stay for a while and have a drink together. Not for fun. She just wanted to talk. Jang was clearly ill, but he stayed, more out of inertia than desire. She began to talk about her marriage, that they've known each other since they were kids. But there's always been an invisible wall between them, that even in the most important moments of her life, she didn't feel close. She admitted that even on the first night after the wedding, she wanted to leave but did not do it. Then she felt sorry for her husband, an honest and brave police officer who was wounded in the service. Jang was only half listening. The alcohol was coming in a new wave, my head was swimming, and my stomach was clenching treacherously. He could barely keep his attention on her words. The girl continued. She talked about how over time their relationship began to crumble, how her husband was less often at home, and how a void grew between them. She reasoned that a marriage falls apart sooner or later if there is no warmth in it, and that, in her opinion, a child can save the relationship. At that moment, she took a step forward and took off her robe. Jing realized that he couldn't take it anymore. He felt a sudden wave of nausea, he excused himself, got up, and threw up as soon as he reached the bathroom. At that moment, one thing was clear to him. He'd gone too far with the drink, and tonight was definitely not going according to plan. In the dream, Zhang saw fragments of the past. The casino floated before my eyes, the smell of cigarettes and money, excitement, cold calculation. Then there was the harsh glare of headlights and the sensation of being hit, as if reality itself had been cut off in an instant. He woke up abruptly. Consciousness returned slowly, and my body felt heavy and foreign. He was lying on the bed and only after a couple of seconds realized that he was not wearing any clothes. The room was unfamiliar, quiet, alien. He sat up and noticed an envelope and a neatly folded wad of money on the bedside table. Inside was a short letter. The meaning of what he was reading froze him. The woman thanked him for the previous night, wrote that she would not bother him again, and left money. The letter also said about the child. If he appeared, she promised to raise him herself. Zheng stared at nothing for a long time. Then he swore out loud, not holding back his exasperation. My thoughts were muddled. But my memory was beginning to come back in flashes, in fragments. He remembered the alcohol, his own insanity, and the fact that he'd really crossed the line last night. Realization hit me like a heavy wave. At that moment, the phone rang. He was informed that the problem with the delayed goods was completely resolved. The cargo is returned, the promise will be fulfilled, and the money will be prepared in the near future. Everything went smoothly. Zhang briefly confirmed what he had heard and dropped the call. He began to dress automatically. The thought of going back swirled in my head. There was nothing else to do here, and his absence from home had lasted longer than he'd expected. I wanted to understand how the rest of them were doing and what had changed during that time. While he was getting ready, a completely different conversation was going on elsewhere. One of the people insisted on meeting Mr. Xu. Permission was granted immediately. The message he brought was about Wu Tianxin. Mr. Xu reacted calmly, but there was clearly a growing irritation inside. He already knew that Zhao Wuji was beginning to interfere with his plans. If you let this continue, things can go wrong. However, eliminating Zhao didn't seem like an ideal solution either. Without it, there will be no one to do the dirty work and train new performers. Mr. Xu thought about it. The idea of simply removing it was tempting, but too easy. He silently weighed his options, knowing that the next step would determine too much. Zhang was sitting outside, lazily smoking a cigarette, and was already getting annoyed. Song Ye was running late, and it felt stronger by the minute. He glanced down the road, then back at the phone. A message popped up on the screen. It was Wu Xinxin. She wrote briefly that she had passed her exams. Zhang couldn't help but chuckle. Somehow, the thought that she'd made it through made him relax a little. Almost immediately, a car pulled up next to him. Blue? New. Too obvious. Songye got out of it with the air of a man who was clearly proud of himself. He apologized for being late and immediately started bragging about the car. Zhang slowly got up, walked over to him, and coldly reminded him that it was a bad habit to be late. He also went over Songye's hairstyle, clearly not appreciating his efforts. Songye, however, wasn't embarrassed. He began to justify himself, saying that normal people spend time on appearance, and that this, they say, is a kind of motivation. Zhang waved him off and told him that he needed to go to Route 56. This statement immediately caused a stream of ridicule. Songye clearly didn't expect to hear something like this and decided that it was either about school or a date. When Zhang confirmed the latter finally perked up. Songye started to comment on Zhang's appearance with outright sarcasm, especially the pink t-shirt. He was frankly amused to think that a man with such a reputation was going to a meeting in such a simple and frivolous way. Zhang, however, remained calm. He shamelessly declared that he liked pink and did not consider himself a mafia boss at all. In his eyes, he was still just a librarian. Song Ye, on the other hand, was clearly displeased. He started talking not so much about Jiang, but about himself and the others, who, in his opinion, are ashamed to appear next to such a modest leader. In the end, he waved his hand, deciding that it was useless to argue, and simply offered to stop by to bring Jiang back to normal appearance. Jiang only looked down at his t-shirt skeptically, wondering for the first time if it was really that bad. At the same time, at school, Wu Xinxin ran into a classmate. She immediately noticed that the girl seemed to have disappeared for several days and began to ask where she had gone. Wu Xin tried to escape with a non-committal reply, but her curiosity was stronger. The classmate quickly went on to speculate, suggesting that Wu Xin had fallen in love. She started to list names, especially highlighting the two guys who had been hanging around for a long time. Wu Xin hesitated. Her reaction only served to increase her suspicions. The classmate said with a grin that the two of them were seriously competing over her, and the situation was already beyond the usual school sympathies. At that moment, Wang Yang walked up to them. His appearance made the atmosphere even more tense. Wu Xin hurriedly tried to explain that it wasn't like that at all, but it didn't seem convincing. The classmate just chuckled knowingly. Wu Xin was embarrassed and mumbled that Brother Jiang was much better for her than all this stupid fighting. Almost immediately, a disciple brought up some unpleasant news. Gu Kai and Wang Yang had already fought over her, and now Wang Yang had even called his older brother for help. It looked like things were getting serious. Wang Yang was determined. He stated that he would definitely deal with Gu Kai today and demanded that Wu Xin not go anywhere and just wait. Wu Xin tried to stop him. She said bluntly that she didn't want anything to do with it, and that you couldn't make a person love you by force. However, Wang Yang was deaf to her words. He was sure that everything he was doing was for her sake, and that his brother would definitely solve the problem. Almost immediately, Wang Yang's older brother himself appeared. He coldly interjected, reminding Wu Xin that the whole fight was about her, and hinting that she couldn't just leave. He made it clear that he expected some compensation for his brother's efforts. At this tense moment, Gu Kai appeared. He tried to smooth things over by suggesting that they just leave together. That was the last straw. Wang Yang snapped. His anger burst out, and he accused Gu Kai of being a traitor and meanness, promising that it wouldn't end this way. Wang Yang broke down first. He shouted out Gu Kai's name and abruptly charged forward, jumping up and kicking him. The blow landed hard and without hesitation, as if he had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Gu Kai collapsed to the ground without even managing to defend properly. Wang Yang immediately leaned on top of him and started punching him, not holding back or stopping. Each punch carried anger and jealousy, accumulated over a long time. He shouted that he would beat him until morning until there was nothing left of him, and that he had no right to even think about Wu Xin. The blows rained down one after another, randomly but fiercely. Big brother Wang Yang's friends watched from the sidelines. Someone grinned, someone commented approvingly, noting that the guy really well-placed punches. They looked at each other, waiting for Big Brother to step in. However, he only stared coldly at what was happening. He was in no hurry to stop the fight, clearly thinking to let the younger one blow off some steam. It was only after a while that he waved his hand, noticing that the situation was starting to attract too much attention. He curtly ordered Wei to step in and separate them. Wei approached quickly and decisively. He grabbed Wang Yang and tried to pull him aside, warning him that he could really kill a person. But Wang Yang struggled, unwilling to stop, and continued to shout threats. He leaned over the battered Gu Kai and made it clear that if he ever got close to Wu Xin again or disturbed her, he wouldn't leave alive. After that, Wu Xin, trying to remain calm, stated that since it was over, she didn't want anything to do with it, and asked to let her and her friend just leave. But Wang Yang's older brother immediately intervened. He was clearly not satisfied with this outcome. He reminded that people came to help, which means that you can't just leave. When Wu Xin directly asked what they wanted from her, he suggested that they take a friend and go with them. To eat, have fun, dance, spend time kindly. There was clearly a hidden subtext in his words. Wu Xin refused without hesitation. This caused tension. Wang Yang tried to interject, saying that he really liked this girl and that the plan was just to teach Gu Kai a lesson. He made it clear that he didn't ask to go that far, but his older brother abruptly reminded him who was always the problem solver here. He reminded him that Wang Yang couldn't handle anything on his own and that he was the one who came to help him every time. Now, he expected loyalty in return. Wang Yang gritted his teeth and still refused to go up against Wu Xin. The older brother took this as a direct act of defiance. He coldly gave him one last chance to change his mind, but the answer remained the same. It was at this moment that Jiang appeared. He walked over calmly, as if he wasn't paying attention to the tense situation at all, and made it clear that Senior is already here. His appearance immediately changed the atmosphere. Wu Xin looked at him in surprise and asked why he was here. Zhang reminded her that the exams were over and said that he had come for her. He suggested that we go for a snack, as if there wasn't a battered guy lying around and aggressive people standing around. Wang Yang's older brother tried to intervene, saying that they had an open issue with this girl. Wu Xin immediately turned to Zhang and quietly asked who her brother had contacted in the first place. Zhang, as if deliberately ignoring the tension, suddenly started talking about his appearance, asking if he looked fashionable now after visiting the salon on Song Ye's advice. This completely exasperated the older brother. He realized that he was being pointedly ignored. Wang Yang also lost his temper. He claimed to be the first to arrive, demanding to know where the man had come from in the first place and why he dared to talk calmly to Wu Xin as if nothing was happening. Zhang didn't raise his voice, just turned to Song Ye and casually asked if he was being addressed now or not. He then calmly said that he had come for his little sister and suggested that Wang Yang move away because he was literally blocking his view. He pushed big brother Wang Yang aside without any rudeness, but confidently. After that, Zhang turned to Wu Xin's friend and suggested that she go out for a bite with them, promising that he would treat her. The girl, a little confused, agreed. Wang Yang's older brother finally exploded. His patience ran out, and he made it clear that such behavior was a direct insult and that now Jiang would have to learn his place. Song Ye sharply kicked brother Wang Yang in the face. The man screamed in pain, his voice cracking, and his eyes filled with fear. He didn't look as confident as he had a few minutes ago. Song Ye coldly noted that he had expected more since he was playing the hard type. To him, the whole thing was pathetic. He even addressed Wang Yang's older brother, making it clear that he was just a coward. He warned Tom to leave while he still had the chance to do it on his own feet. Zhang, watching from the side, muttered to Song Ye not to make too much noise. In the end, he said that the issue was closed and suggested that we just go to eat. Wang Yang, coming to his senses, yelled after him, demanding to know where Wu Xinxin was being taken. Song Ye didn't turn around and ask the girl if she knew this hysterical guy and who he really was. Wang Yang snapped at the insults again, clinging to Song Ye's appearance and trying to look cocky. Song Ye instantly flushed and invited him to repeat it once more as he came closer. Zhang chuckled at this and noticed that it looked like they knew each other. He was even curious about how this guy would behave in a real collision. Song Ye admitted that he was annoyed by this type rude, stupid, and problematic. He obviously didn't know how to control himself and was constantly getting into trouble. He demanded that Wang Yang look at him when talking to him, but he kept snapping, losing control of the situation completely. Song Ye abruptly took hold of it. Wang Yang immediately started panicking, panting, and begging to be released. He was on edge, fear completely replacing his earlier bravado. Song Ye forced him to admit defeat. Wang Yang, even though he had given up, still tried to save face by promising to take revenge and bring Wu Xinxin back in the future. Zhang calmly interjected, noting that this was why Wang Yang had lost, because he thought the girl belonged to someone else. After that, Wang Yang made a final threat and left. Zhang Bai promised without emotion that no one was going to hurt her. Song Ye, assessing the incident, noted that the guy is impulsive and easily loses his temper. But with proper training, he could be useful. They went to eat. Zhang asked his friend Wu Xinxin what she would like. She chose a steak. Song Ye supported the idea, saying that he also likes it. In the evening, after the girls went home, Song Ye and Zhang Bai were left alone. Zhang clarified whether everything was fine and whether they got there without any problems. Song Ye replied that he shouldn't worry too much. Zhang suddenly noticed that Xiao Langlang was looking at Song Ye, strangely especially at the time of the fight, and later, at dinner, he bluntly said that there was a spark in her eyes. Song Ye waved him off, telling him not to start. Reminding him that he already had someone, Zhang changed the subject and thanked him for his help with the company's affairs, admitting that he couldn't have done it himself. Song Ye reacted harshly, calling such words disgusting. Zhang awkwardly explained that he just wanted to express his gratitude and wouldn't bring it up again. At this moment, a message from Wu Xinxin came to Zhang Bai's phone. She wrote that there was an incident at the school related to bullies, which caused her mother to be called, but she is ill. The teacher asked that he come instead. The next day, Zhang arrived at Wu Xinxin's school and went to the staff room without any emotion. He looked calm, as if he had come for an ordinary business. He introduced himself as the student's brother and explained that he was here because of yesterday's incident. He spoke confidently, showing no sign of excitement. Seeing a familiar face, Zhang couldn't help but raise his voice as he recognized the woman he had spent the night with earlier. The teacher immediately reprimanded him, reminding him where he was. Zhang quickly explained that he was Wu Xinxin's brother and didn't expect to see her here. Only now did he realize that she worked at this school. Su introduced herself as class teacher Wu Xinxin and looked at him carefully. Her gaze was cold and appraising. Zhang tried to simplify the situation, apologized for any possible concern, and assured that this would not happen again. He clearly expected the conversation to end there. However, Sue recalled that after the conflict, the girl was allegedly taken away by an unknown guy. She expressed surprise at how calm he was. She made it clear that as a brother, he should have been more worried. Jiang quickly admitted that the guy was himself. Sue admitted that in this case, it is not a question of abduction. But she immediately added that because of this conflict, 2 students got into a fight, and 1 ended up in the hospital. She said that the parents of both students have already been called. After that, she asked Jiang to stay and participate in the conversation. Jiang agreed to stay without any objections. He noted that he wasn't in a hurry to go anywhere today anyway. Wang Yang's father came in, visibly flustered and out of breath. He immediately started apologizing for being late. He promised that his son wouldn't get into any more trouble. The man was almost begging to give Wang Yang a second chance. Sue asked him to calm down and sit down. She explained that it was only important to understand the situation now. Gukai's parents came in next, and the tension in the office skyrocketed. Just from their looks, it was clear that the conversation was going to be difficult. My mother complained in exasperation, and my father immediately went on to accuse me. He loudly declared that his son had been severely beaten. He talked about the hospital, threats, and inappropriate behavior at school. His voice was getting louder by the second. The vice rector tried to smooth things over and expressed regret. He claimed that the school did not expect such an incident. However, Gukai's father only increased the pressure and threatened the courts. He made it clear that he would not let this go without consequences. Sue tried to step in and clarify what was happening. She turned to the vice rector for support. In response, the vice rector shifted the responsibility to her. He said that the problem lies in her teaching methods. Zhang watched from the sidelines with cold irony. To him, it looked like a typical school drama. The vice rector continued to push, accusing Sue of incompetence. He hinted that this was unacceptable for the school's reputation. Sue cautiously apologized for any possible shortcomings. However, she made it clear that this case was beyond the scope of normal discipline. Sue calmly and consistently stated the entire situation, emphasizing that this is the version of events from the students who were present at the conflict. She tried to keep her voice neutral, not taking sides, but the tension in the office was still building. Gukai's mother abruptly turned her attention to Wang Yang's father, immediately identifying his son as the sole culprit. Her words were filled with contempt and the certainty that such an upbringing would eventually lead to prison. Then she turned to direct threats, saying that she did not intend to leave it without consequences. She hinted at her connections in the Tiandu Public Security Bureau and made it clear that she could ruin someone else's life and career with a single call. She made it clear that she was ready to do anything for her son and would not back down under any circumstances. For her, it wasn't a question of justice, but of completely suppressing the other party. Wang Yang's father looked broken and confused, admitting his own upbringing mistakes. He tried to smooth over the conflict by appealing to his son's age and offering to compensate for medical expenses. However, this wasn't enough for Gukai's mother, and she made deliberately humiliating demands. Apart from the large sum of money, she still insisted that Wang Yang face criminal punishment. Wang Yang couldn't stand the pressure and broke down, standing up for his father rudely. His rage was directed not so much at the accusations as at the fact of humiliating his family. Gukai's mother's response was cold and venomous, as she pointedly showed that she didn't take the teenager seriously. At the same time, she made it clear that she would definitely deal with him separately later. Her attention then shifted to Wu Xinxin, and her tone became especially sinister under the guise of moralizing. She actually accused the girl of manipulation and threatened terrible consequences if she approached her son again. It was at this moment that Jiang Bai no longer held back and intervened. His calmness was deceptive because there was a blatant readiness for violence behind it. He made it clear that he regarded what he said as a direct threat to someone close to him. His reaction was swift and harsh, leaving no doubt of the seriousness of his intentions. Gukai's father's attempt to intervene ended instantly before he could change anything. The punch was precise and humiliating, highlighting the difference in strength and status. Jiang Bai coldly outlined his position as Wu Xinxin's guardian, and made it clear that he didn't care about other people's connections and surnames. He directly linked the behavior of children with the behavior of parents, without hesitation in expressions. In the end, he demanded that Gukai's family leave immediately and never come near him and his men again. There was a heavy silence in the office, in which it became clear that it was better not to check this warning. Gukai's father tried to protest, but the words stuck in his throat with rage and fear. His attempt to look menacing was pathetic in comparison. Gukai's mother immediately became hysterical, demanding to call the police and loudly waving her ties. She was sure that the family's status and familiarity with the Tiandu police chief completely protected them from any consequences. Jiang Bai only chuckled, as if he had just heard a particularly bad joke. There was no alarm in his reaction, only outright disdain. The woman continued to threaten. convinced that the arrival of the police would put an end to this conflict. In her eyes, Jiang was already a person who couldn't get out. Wang Yang, who was watching the scene, asked Wu Xinxin in a panic if her brother had gone too far. He genuinely didn't understand how anyone could wait so calmly for the consequences. Wu Xinxin replied without a shadow of doubt that such situations were nothing to her brother. Her voice carried the confidence of someone who knew all too well what Jiang Bai was capable of. Gukai's mother didn't listen to anyone as she kept repeating that the police were on their way and there was no way to escape. She was enjoying the moment, thinking she was the winner. Jiang Bai suddenly declared that it was his turn now and calmly took out his phone. His demeanor was that of a man who knows the outcome of a game in advance. He dialed Song Ye and briefly described the situation, mentioning the pressure on Wu Xinxin and the parents' defiant behavior. In conversation, he lightly and almost mockingly asked to check who exactly is behind these threats. Song Ye quickly found the information he needed and clarified the details related to the Education Bureau and the family name. The conversation was brief, but it was clear from the tone of his voice that the matter was already settled. After receiving confirmation, Jiang Bai put away his phone and looked at Gukai's mother with a cold smile. There was a look of anticipation in his eyes. The woman continued to flaunt herself, claiming that she wasn't afraid of some youngster and that the Gu family was too powerful. She still didn't realize that the situation was already out of her control. At this moment, Gukai's father received a call that instantly changed his expression. He was getting paler by the second, listening to the harsh voice on the other side of the line. He was told that he had already received a complaint from people connected with the city authorities and underground structures. He was accused of abusing his position and demanded to settle everything immediately. The voice on the phone left no choice, directly pointing out the temporary suspension and possible blacklisting. The only chance to save anything was to apologize urgently. Jiang Bai calmly asked if the conversation was over. There was no threat in his tone, just cold confidence. Gukai's father hurriedly assured the other party that he would fix everything and ended the call with a trembling hand. After that, he looked completely broken. Gukai's mother asked in confusion what had happened, not understanding the abrupt change. But she never got an answer. Gukai's father gathered up his remaining dignity, admitted that he was wrong, and tried to smooth things over. He hurriedly shifted the blame to himself, his wife, and his son, begging to be allowed to leave without consequences. There was silence in the office, and it was clear that the outcome had already been decided. And now, the Gu family was the party that was afraid to take an extra breath. Gukai's father made it clear that the matter with the girl was closed, and promised to transfer his son to another school so that he would not cause any more problems. His words were formal, as if he wanted to end the conversation quickly. Jiang was indifferent and made it clear that he didn't care about other people's excuses. He rudely advised me to raise my son and not waste his time. Gukai's father was about to object, but the boy's mother stopped him. She excused herself, took her husband's arm, and insisted that they leave immediately. Wang Yang's father then carefully clarified whether the conflict could be considered settled. He explained that they had to go back to work and promised that at home they would explain his mistakes to his son and try to make amends. Jiang suddenly turned to Wang Yang and abruptly handed him a business card. He said that if one day he was expelled from school because of something stupid, this number could save his future. He explained that the owner of the business card will get him a decent job and will not let him go hungry. In addition, he mentioned that it was about a strange old man with a ponytail. Wang Yang remarked ironically that he would then be indebted to both Jiang and the old man. His words were half mocking, half serious. Jiang immediately cut it short, saying that no thanks were needed. He emphasized that he was only acting for Wu Xinxin's sake, and Wang Yang himself was just a random passerby to him. Teacher Su looked at Jiang carefully and couldn't help but feel a strange sensation. She felt as if this was a person of noble birth and not an ordinary visitor to the school. She wondered how one phone call had allowed him to deal with the deputy director. In her opinion, this was beyond the power of an ordinary person without power and connections. Jiang introduced himself with a slight grin as an ordinary businessman who deals in books, texts, and various projects. He added evasively that he just knew a lot of people in different fields. Su wasn't convinced by this explanation, as she knew what kind of connections the Gu family had. According to her, they were protected by people from the very top of the security system. She suddenly declared that her husband knew the man personally and that he wasn't the type to be bought with money. Therefore, friend Jiang's influence seemed truly frightening to her. Su recalled that the man was a military police captain and one of the top candidates for a high position. The idea that he'd been suspended with just one phone call seemed far-fetched to her. Jiang calmly remarked that since her husband was also at the top, he would be interested to know his name. His tone was lazy, but there was a sense of superiority in it. Su was wary and asked why he needed to know. There was a hint of suspicion in her voice and an undercurrent of alarm. Jiang suddenly stood up and reminded her of their relationship with a grin. He was being defiant, as if he was deliberately testing her patience. He made it clear that he wasn't going to leave it at that and would definitely discuss it with her husband. At the same time, he mockingly hinted at the humiliation hidden behind the green hat. Sue didn't immediately understand the meaning of what he said, but when she realized it, she flushed with rage. She slapped Jiang across the face, not hiding her disgust. Jiang just chuckled, as if the slap didn't hurt him at all. He warned her to be careful because he was still holding back. Sue snapped and said that she already regretted everything that had happened. She ordered him to leave immediately and not return. Jiang ignored her as he grabbed her hand and asked her a cold question. There was a hint of mockery and dangerous interest in his eyes. He approached her and asked her roughly if he mattered to her if she wasn't pregnant. These words sounded like a blatant provocation, leaving a heavy tension in the air. Sue screamed, trying to break free, and warned Jiang that if she had known the consequences, she would never have done such a thing. She threatened to find someone else to replace him and demanded that he take his hands off her. Jiang, with a grin, asked Wu Xin if school didn't close at 6 and asked if she wanted him to leave. He hinted at the possibility of checking out the old geezer, after which Sue, in fright, could barely answer. Jiang cheerfully addressed Wu Xin, noting how ridiculous her teacher was, and suggested that she not cause any more trouble. He warned her that he would go and advised her to take care of herself. He addressed Sue again, calling her wifey, and jokingly adding that he would be back before she blinked. Sue was indignant and called him shameless, not understanding the meaning of such words. Wu Xin curiously asked why her brother called the teacher wifey and what the green hat was. Sue hurried to reassure her, saying that it wasn't a cause for concern. Jiang jokingly expressed his broken heart at the woman's cruelty. He then left, leaving Sue feeling annoyed and wondering about his strange audacity. Wu Xin politely asked her to go back to her class, and Sue, watching the girl, was surprised at how smart and sensible the younger sister was. She allowed Wu Xin to go, but held her back to give her some advice. Sue warned Wu Xin that her brother might have been injured after birth, and that he should be looked after. Wu Xin nodded, trying to make sense of the teacher's words. On the way home, Jiang sneezed and wondered if someone was discussing him. At that moment, the phone rang, which disturbed his thoughts. He picked up the phone and heard Wang's urgent voice saying that he needed Jiang badly. In response to Jiang's questions, Wang said that it would be better to find out the details later, since the banquet was organized for 2 weeks. Jiang was surprised by the length of the event and asked what exactly Wang was preparing. He said that all the details would become clear in due course, and later a person would be sent for him and recommended to wear official clothes. After the conversation, Jiang felt uneasy, having a premonition that something wasn't right here. He went to the banquet, assessing its size and impressive organization. Wang asked Jiang to be serious, explaining that the event was attended by high-ranking officials from Tiandu's circle. Jiang calmly agreed and threw down his cigarette. Deng, noticing Jiang, turned to him affably and noted that he hadn't seen him for a long time. Wang politely introduced Jiang as the young master who was replacing Zhao Ye today. Deng was surprised and tried to comprehend that the young man would actually act in Zhao Ye's place. He thought to himself that this young successor looked too young to manage such matters. Wang reported that Zhao Ye was in a bad state, and so Jiang was taking responsibility today. Dan was stunned and couldn't believe that the youngster would be able to handle the role of the head's replacement. Deng chuckled and remarked that the current youngsters were full of surprises, and since Jiang was Zhao Ye's replacement, it meant that he really had talent. He was looking at it with obvious interest, as if he was already trying to gauge its true value. Jiang cursed inwardly, wondering what exactly Zhao Wuji was up to and why he was dragging him into this. He couldn't tell if he really saw him as the heir, or if something really serious had happened. Deng said that he was counting on Mr. Jiang's help in the future, since he was personally recommended by Zhao Ye. Jiang modestly replied that he didn't have anything special and was just helping his friend. Wang immediately chimed in and began praising Jiang, calling him a rarity of his time and emphasizing his moral principles. He stated that Jiang is a true dragon among humans, superior to the rest. Deng was surprised to note that this was the first time he had ever heard the famous Mr. Wang praise someone other than Zhao Wuji. This only increased his interest in the young man in front of him. He called the waiter over and ordered the best wine to be brought, wanting to spend the evening properly with Wang and Jiang. Wang gently stopped him, explaining that Jiang wouldn't be drinking today, as they had a lot of things to discuss. Dan laughed and agreed without argument, promising to catch up next time. He looked pleased, as if he had just received a lucrative promise. Jiang took advantage of the moment to quietly ask Wang what was going on and why he was acting so strangely. He was particularly embarrassed by the claims that he was supposedly replacing Zhao Ye. Wang replied that there were too many questions and too many prying ears. He promised to explain everything later and added that tomorrow would be extremely important. He sent Jiang to rest, saying that he would pick him up in the morning. Jiang had no choice but to agree, even though the anxiety inside him only increased. The next day, Wang began taking Jiang to various banquets and introducing him to people from the highest circles. Among them were high-ranking officials, influential figures, and even representatives of an even higher level. Each time, Wang would deliberately praise Jiang and emphasize that he was temporarily replacing Zhao Ye. This attracted too much attention, and Jiang felt increasingly uncomfortable. He asked who was next in line and tiredly asked for at least a little rest. Jiang jokingly offered to tell Zhao Ye that even lazy people like him needed to rest. Wang calmly replied that they were on their way to him right now. Jiang asked in confusion, not believing what he was hearing. After opening the door, Jiang immediately called out to Zhao Ye, complaining about the hard day and demanding an explanation. But when he saw it, he froze. Zhao Ye was lying in bed, hooked up to an IV and looking extremely ill. Jiang immediately told him to relax and lie down quietly. His voice became serious as he asked what had happened and how things had gotten to this state. Zhao Ye tried to answer, but couldn't find the words. Jiang insisted on telling the truth, feeling that the matter was much more serious than he thought. After a long pause, Zhao Ye quietly admitted that his time was almost here. He said he was going to die soon, and the words hung heavy in the room. Jiang asked with a heavy feeling if it was really that bad, and if Zhao Ye was at least a little better. He calmly made it clear that he had long accepted his condition and had no illusions. When Jiang didn't understand what he was talking about, Zhao Ye directly reported that he had about 3 months left to live. The doctors said that he had long since exceeded the limit, and everything that was happening was just a postponement of the inevitable. He admitted that 3 months of artificial blood circulation maintenance is already beyond human capabilities. Basically, he just took up a little extra time from fate. Zhao Ye stated that he believed in Jiang Bai's abilities and asked him to take his place. These words didn't sound like a request, but like a trust that couldn't be ignored. Jiang tried to argue that there might still be a cure or other way out, but Zhao Ye immediately dismissed that hope, explaining that he had been battling the disease for more than a decade. He tried everything possible, and even the most famous doctors were powerless. With each passing day, his body was getting weaker and death was getting closer. Zhao Ye admitted that the realization of his imminent death unexpectedly brought him peace of mind. However, there was still one question that kept him from leaving with a clear soul. The reason why he was still clinging to life was because of his concern for Leopard Wang. He had been following him for a long time, and that was why Zhao Ye had entrusted all of his business to him. However, Zhao Ye knew that it would be extremely difficult for Wang alone. Even with all your talent, there are too many things that you can't handle alone. He noted that in a one-on-one match, Wang is practically invincible. But there was a power in this city that could break even him, and Jiang had experienced it before. There are people in the port city who could pose a serious threat to Wang. The thought that after his death, everything that had been built might be destroyed bothered Zhao Ye. Wang wanted to intervene, but Zhao Ye stopped him, making it clear that he didn't blame him for anything. He knew that strong personalities inevitably await the downfall of those above them. Zhao Ye said that the heavens still hadn't completely turned their backs on him since Jiang Bai was there. His appearance reinforced Zhao Ye's belief that God was still watching over the world. He was confident that Jiang would be the one to cover Wang's rear. This conviction was firm and unquestionable. Zhao Ye recalled their first meeting and confessed that he immediately thought Jiang was capable of turning the entire city upside down. At first, he didn't believe the rumors, but after seeing them with his own eyes, he realized that they weren't exaggerated. In his eyes, Jiang was a true dragon among humans, shrewd and frighteningly strong at the same time, someone who can crush whatever the world decides to oppose. He stressed that Jiang's mind is unusually strong for such an age, and that no laws can bind him. No slyness will work against a person of this level. Zhao Ye stated that if anyone dared to offend Jiang, he should suppress him. If there is a reason to strike, you need to strike, because Jiang is determined enough to determine for himself where the truth is. He added that Wu Tianxin's humility is a small matter, just like helping Gus City boss Huang Sani. All this only confirmed that Jiang was a rare type of person that Zhao Ye was very familiar with. Then, Zhao Ye suddenly revealed that he had a daughter, she's in high school in America, and he's never seen her in all these years. He originally wanted to make her his heir, but he knew that her path was far from his own. After all, it's just life, and he's accepted that fact. The only thing he asked was for Jiang to help her one day, if the opportunity presented itself. And if possible, I brought her to him so that he could see his little girl at least once before he died. Jiang firmly promised that he would find his daughter. The words came out without hesitation. Wang handed Jiang a photo and a file on Zhao Ye's daughter named Zhao Hong. He explained that she had been living abroad for many years and had been brought up by male nannies. If Zhao Ye wasn't so ill, Wang would have gone to fetch her personally. Right now, he could only entrust this matter to Jiang. Wang also quietly added that if anything ever happened to himself, he hoped that Jiang would look after both the case and the girl. The odds are slim, but she means too much to Zhao Ye. Zhang abruptly put a stop to such talk, saying that he would come to the rescue if such a day came, but he didn't like that sort of thing, and he made it clear. As for the girl, Zhang expressed the hope that he wouldn't have to interfere after all. Deep down, he knew that this hope might be in vain. Zhang made a discreet promise that if such a day really came, he would keep his word. He said these words calmly, without pathos, as if it were a matter of course. Zhao Ye asked Jiang to come closer and warned him that despite his outstanding qualities, there were enough forces in this world that could become a deadly threat. He reminded that the world is huge, and any person, whoever he is, has a limit. He stressed that too many people are waiting for the right moment to climb to the top, stepping on others. It is especially important to understand that there are people who cannot be eliminated by simple methods. Zhao Ye admitted that when he was young, he went after such people and paid dearly for it. He sincerely hoped that Jiang wouldn't repeat his mistakes. Wang added that in his younger years, Zhao Ye was a first-class wushu master. In the world of national martial arts, his name aroused respect and fear. Jiang was surprised to realize that the old man's appearance was deceptive. The thought that Zhao Ye might be a step higher than himself made him wonder who his master was. Zhao Ye reluctantly admitted that Jiang was already connected to those people. As soon as it was announced that he would be the successor, he was immediately watched. He asked Jiang to listen carefully and reminded him that the world is not what it seems. Those people are an inexplicable but integral part of this world. Zhao Ye then listed the names of those standing at the top. Dragon Emperor Li Qingdi, Hebei Guardian Wu Tianxin, Southern Tiger Mao Chengtian, and Northeast King Nalan Zhongdi. Each name sounded like a sentence. He reminded Jiang of the meeting after which he had managed to return safely from Wu Tianxin. This was inexplicable and probably meant that he saw something interesting in Jiang. Zhao Ye made it clear that if Wu Tianxin wanted him dead, Jiang wouldn't have lived even a moment in his territory. This person never forgets and never forgives. No wonder they call him a gambit. He explained that Wu Tianxin sacrificed people like chess pieces to achieve his own endgame. Perhaps he changed his mind after meeting Jiang, or perhaps he just let him go. Most likely, he let Jiang go so that he could face him again one day. As his successor, after Zhao Ye's death, no one could say for sure if he would come for Jiang's head. The only way out is to become stronger so that you can stand up to him. This is the only way to change the outcome of a future collision. Jiang cursed under his breath as he realized that the blonde man was just playing with him. Now it was clear that he had been deliberately released, and there were probably more than one such creature in the world. Zhao Ye interrupted his thoughts and said that wasn't what was important right now. What he was going to say next, Jiang was bound to remember forever. He asked me to promise that these words will be stored in memory regardless of the place and time. This was not a request, but a final instruction. Zhao Ye said that there were countless heroes that he himself couldn't reach. But he didn't have the slightest doubt about Jiang. He guessed that in a few years, even Li Qingdi wouldn't be able to touch it. However, there is one person in this world that Jiang must always remember. When Jiang asked who he was talking about, the answer was heavy and peremptory. This person's name was Shu Chengsheng. Zhao Ye warned Jiang not to go against him under any circumstances in this life. Even in the prime of his own strength, he was powerless against this man. He recalled how Li Qingdi, Wu Tianxin, Nalan, and Zheng Di had bowed down to his might. But all of this was insignificant in front of Shu Chengsheng. That day, Shu Chengsheng came out of the shadows and didn't let him escape. In a matter of seconds, without hesitation, he caught Zhao Ye off guard. Zhao Ye admitted that he was instantly defeated. This man had turned him into an invalid, and even regret couldn't change anything. Jiang left the room, took a deep breath, and mentally accessed the system, wanting to know Zhao Wuji's current state. At the same time, the space around him trembled, and the voice announced the entrance to the capital's system, which immediately seemed strange. He hadn't even finished speaking when he was jerked out of reality. The world around him blurred, and in the next second, he was in an unknown place, unable to see anything around him. Jiang cursed, trying to figure out where he was and find some sort of reference point. The space was empty, oppressive, and completely alien. Suddenly, a mocking voice rang out, full of mockery and recognizable disdain. He spoke as if he had been waiting for this meeting for a long time and was frankly enjoying the moment. Jiang became alert and tried to figure out who was in front of him, but the next moment he froze. Here was a man who looked exactly like himself, only older, colder, and far more smug. The realization hit him like a fist. It was like looking into a distorted mirror of the past. The unreality of what was happening made him shudder. The stranger mockingly explained that he was the system. He said this with such pathos, as if he expected gratitude and worship. Jiang tried to make sense of what was happening and asked why it looked like this and where the usual metropolitan haze was. The answer was simple and annoying at the same time. The system simply chose a new form. The system said that this is now an upgrade, an improved version, and there is nothing to complain about. After that, she snapped her fingers, and a table and chairs appeared out of thin air. Jiang was invited to sit down and eat, hinting that anything could be created in this space. He declined, feeling that appetite was the last thing he needed in this situation. The system did not pay attention to the failure, but immediately got down to business. She said that after the upgrade and thanks to Jiang, she could help with Zhao Wuji. Then the price was announced, 120,000 prestige points. The tone was mockingly generous, as if it was a discount rather than an exorbitant amount. Jiang exploded, not hiding his anger, because such a price sounded like outright robbery. He immediately realized that this wasn't a simple treatment. The system calmly explained that Zhao Wuji's condition was critical. The martial artist's body was worn to the limit. His internal organs are already decaying, and he is literally hanging by a thread from death. In fact, Jiang didn't ask for treatment, but for a full-fledged resurrection and restoration of the body under such conditions. The price, according to the system, was more than adequate. She bluntly said that it was about reshaping the body from scratch. Getting a new body for 120,000 points is still cheap in her opinion. Jiang gritted his teeth and asked if there was any other way. The answer was short and merciless. No. There was a heavy pause as Jiang weighed everything. In the end, he made up his mind and agreed to give it a try. The system burst out laughing, clearly pleased with this outcome. She said that's why she likes Jiang. If you can't buy it, then you have to take the risk. She offered to play the lottery, promising to give a chance to win. There was an unmistakable pleasure in the impending madness in her voice. The system began to speak louder and more solemnly, as if announcing the start of a grand show. She urged Jiang to let fate and fate intertwine in a game of luck. At the same time, a giant lottery appeared in front of them, shining with a strange light. The space shook, and the system announced that the show was starting. As he spun the lottery, his scream of rage and despair tore through the space. "Bitch! Again!" he blurted out when the result was useless again. The system immediately erupted into a howl of delight, announcing a rare purple item and a super cannon. The voice sounded like it was the greatest event in the universe. Jiang only gritted his teeth and demanded to try again, not wanting to listen to this circus. Anger seethed in him, and his fingers trembled with tension. Another scroll and another failure, which made him curse even louder. It seemed like luck was mocking him on purpose. Suddenly, the system screamed about a white object and $100,000, as if that should make him happy. The money dropped into the virtual pocket, but Jiang's face remained grim. Then came the final announcement of a rare purple cultivation skill that allows you to automatically absorb chi energy like a dragon. The system laughed, calling it cheats and the pinnacle of luck. Jiang coldly said that all this was useless to him. He had only one person and one problem on his mind. He clenched his fists and cursed, not knowing what to do next. For the first time, excitement brought nothing but emptiness. The system, hearing this, insulted him and called him an ungrateful puppy. She stated that anyone else would have prayed for such rewards. Jiang flared up and accused the system of setting things up in advance. He was sure that the treatment wasn't there to begin with. The system lazily replied that it had no reason to lie, since it was a god. This tone only made Jiang angrier. He abruptly asked if there was anything that could extend Zhao Wuji's life for points. Even the slightest chance was important to him. The system pretended to dig through the store, commenting on its pathetic prestige reserves. The pause was excruciatingly long. Finally, she stated that he could buy the Seed of Life for 3,200 prestige points. According to her, this will extend Zhao Wuji's life by another year. She explained that the item just needs to be eaten, and the effect will work instantly. At the same time, the system mockingly added that the price is quite affordable. Jiang asked again, realizing the opportunity. If you buy a seed every year, you can keep it alive without finding a cure. The system immediately laughed and destroyed his hope. The item turned out to be a one-time item and didn't work again. She added that even so, Zhao Wuji will face a life of torment. The disease will not go away, and there will be no miracles. Jiang tiredly agreed and asked for an end to this farce. He philosophically remarked that human life is as changeable as a lottery. The system only responded with a snide laugh. In the next instant, Jiang was teleported back to the hotel. The phone rang almost immediately, and Xiao Huang's familiar voice cautiously asked if he had been disturbed. Jiang calmly replied that it was fine. Xiao Huang happily reported that the money had already been transferred to the account. The amount was more than $1 billion. Jiang was surprised and asked how the business was going. He was more concerned with stability than the money itself. Xiao Huang reported that everything was working surprisingly well and that the competition had retreated. He suggested starting an import and export partnership in the port city. He announced the terms of profit sharing, where most of it went to Jiang. All that remained was to allow time for an analysis of the labor force. Jiang agreed indifferently and allowed the merchant company to be registered. All he cared about was not breaking the law, Xiao Huang confidently confirmed that everything would be done correctly. After that, the call ended. Zhang wondered what kind of game the bastard was playing and what kind of money he could possibly spend on. The thought of $1 billion was not a happy one. He went to the office where Yao met him. The atmosphere there was usually tense. Zhang greeted her with a smirk, asking if she was bored. There was a hint of mockery in his voice. Yao replied coquettishly and defiantly undid the button on her shirt. She leaned closer, provoking him. Zhang abruptly ended this circus and advised her to look for other clients. He made it clear that he wasn't up for games right now. Then he said that he was here on important business. His tone became serious. Yao clarified whether this is related to business. There was a flicker of interest in her eyes. Zhang admitted that the company has temporary financial difficulties. Then he added that he had a chance to earn even more, but first he needed to spend a huge amount. Yao asked in surprise what kind of money she was talking about. Even she hadn't expected this scale. Zhang calmly named the amount, about $900 million. He directly asked if she would help him spend it. Yao stared at him in shock and blurted out sharply in disbelief, "What? 900 liam? In cash? Did you sell drugs?" Zhang huffed and rolled his eyes, clearly annoyed at this conclusion. He coldly replied that for the sake of money, the law is not violated, and asked not to talk nonsense. He explained that he was with a friend in Gusu and just successfully completed a few cases. Nothing special. Just the money itself came into your hands. Yao frowned and shook her head, still not believing what she was hearing. Even for her boss, such a sum seemed like something out of the realm of reality. She gave Zhang Bai's shoulder a sharp push, and he collapsed on the sofa. In the next second, Yao was sitting on top of him, grinning with obvious defiance. Yao leaned closer and said with a confident grin that all of his possessions would one day be hers. She said she could take care of everything better than anyone else. Zhang only chuckled dryly, letting out a short laugh. He wasn't amused, but he wasn't surprised either. Yao frowned and asked what made him laugh so much. There was a hint of annoyance in her voice. Zhang abruptly ordered her to get down, claiming that she was pushing him. He reminded her that he was actually her boss. Yao was theatrically indignant and snorted, calling him cold and harmful. But she got to the point almost immediately, knowing that the jokes were coming to an end. She admitted that investing $900 million in a company was crazy. Even she wouldn't be able to use that kind of money wisely. Yao suggested another option and mentioned boss Ma, who was currently working in real estate. She asked if Zhang would like to become his investor. Almost immediately, she remembered the name, Ma Changyang, and perked up. Without wasting any time, she offered to call him immediately. Zhang dialed the number and said hello calmly, as if he hadn't disappeared for years. The phone immediately sounded tense and tired. Ma admitted that he has serious problems and is trying to solve them. His voice sounded like he was holding on with all his strength. Zhang directly asked what was wrong and what exactly was the problem. He had already guessed that the conversation would turn to money. Ma said that his partner cheated on him and ran away, leaving a hole in his finances. He'd invested in real estate on someone else's advice, and now he was paying for it. Jiang clarified whether there were not enough funds and said that he had free money to invest. At that moment, Yao took off her heels and started running her foot along his leg. Ma explained that the project initially required about 500 million of his personal investment. For this purpose, he pledged assets and took on almost the entire burden. Zhang whispered irritably to Yao, asking her what she was doing. His patience was rapidly running out. Ma continued, explaining that without a partner, the project is bursting at the seams. There is not even enough money to support ongoing work. Yao suddenly interjected, offering to become his mistress with a grin. She was clearly amused by what was happening. Ma said that 300 million was his savings, and the rest was loans. Now the money is almost gone. Zhang again sharply rebuked Yao and ordered him to stop. He made it clear that he was engaged in a serious conversation. Yao resentfully asked if he had any feelings for her. There was a hint of real vulnerability in her voice. Ma admitted that if this goes on, his company will go bankrupt. He risks losing everything, including the mortgaged property. Zhang summed it up and asked directly how much money was needed. He spoke calmly, as if it were a small matter. Ma named the amount about $800 million. The total cost of the project was approximately 1 and 2 billion rubles. Yao kept whispering in his ear all the while, urging him to make a decision. Her voice was too intrusive. Zhang calmly stated that he could provide the money. His tone was even, without hesitation. Ma barely restrained his emotions and promised to give away 80% of the profits. He assured her that Jiang wouldn't regret it. Zhang questioned the validity of this division. He indicated that he was investing more than Ma himself. Ma was quick to explain that investors used to offer pennies. Against the background of 800 million, Zhang's contribution was crucial. Zhang snapped at Yao, telling him to behave normally. His patience was completely exhausted. In the phone, he said that he would call back later to clarify the details. After that, the conversation came to an end. Ma thanked him and called him his savior. He promised to help Zhang in the future whenever necessary. Yu remarked with a grin that, with such a temper, he would never find a wife. Her voice was a mixture of humor and reproach. Zhang said a curt goodbye and hung up. The room was immediately filled with silence. He slowly turned to Yao and coldly said that he would deal with her now. There was no joke in his eyes. Yao screamed and started shouting, feigning panic. She screamed theatrically, as if she'd been captured by a real devil. Sometime later, real estate investments were more than successful. The project paid off completely and brought Zhang Bai much more profit than he originally expected. After receiving a steady cash flow, Zhang Bai decided to expand and enter another field. He used the capital to help Song Ye acquire an e-commerce company. The company was called the Imperial Consortium, but under Zhang Bai's leadership it was renamed Imperial. From that moment on, its rapid transformation began. Ma Changyang continued to be responsible for real estate, and his firm was given the appropriate direction and brand. As a result, the sudden merger of structures literally shocked the business world of China. Zhang Bai became the chairman of the consortium. Retaining the highest authority, Yao Yao was promoted to the position of president, overseeing the company's day-to-day operations. Song Ye assumed the position of vice president, responsible for strategy and development. Ma Changyang became the chief branch manager, coordinating local projects. No one could have imagined that a company with a 20-year-old chairman would grow into such a colossus in such a short time. Even Zhang Bai himself didn't expect this, especially considering the growth rate after the merger. On this day, Zhang Bai was on the phone with Song Ye while sitting in the school library. His voice was lazy and relaxed. "Song Ye?" he drawled, lowering his voice. "What are you doing?" "I'm still in the library." Song Ye snorted into the phone and clearly didn't hide his displeasure. He said that the chairman of Imperial pretending to be a school librarian looks ridiculous. Zhang Bai chuckled and told him to shut up. He reminded me that Song Ye and Yao Yao were running everything, and he was just enjoying himself. He added that he feels like an old man who has finally been allowed to rest. "It's so good to be the boss," he laughed. Song Ye sighed and said that it was time for Big Brother to learn how to live like an adult. Then, he abruptly changed the subject and asked him to stay put. He said he would bring someone to see him. His voice became noticeably more serious. Zhang Bai became interested and immediately asked who it was. He assumed it was someone new. Song Ye answered evasively and promised that the person would be helpful. After that, he dropped the call without giving me any more questions. Zhang Bai frowned and muttered that Song Ye was acting strange. He didn't understand why the man had suddenly decided to introduce someone. At that moment, a scream rang out. His cousin called out his name. Zhang Bai raised his head and asked in surprise. He clearly hadn't expected to see her here. His cousin came closer and immediately started scolding him. She said her mother had been trying to call him all week and was very worried. She added that his phone was unavailable and no one knew what had happened to him. Zhang Bai went missing for more than a week without explanation. Zhang calmly replied that he had warned about the school's busy schedule. He said that they knew about it and did not see a problem. His cousin snorted and handed him the photograph. There was an obvious displeasure in her eyes. She explained that it was a blind date photo. My aunt asked me to tell him and hinted that it was time for him to settle down. Zhang looked at the photo and grinned. He was surprised that things had gone so far. He asked why Lin looked pouty in the photo. There was a hint of mockery in his voice. Zhang added that he hates dating and marriage is out of the question. He told his cousin not to sulk. She asked if it was true. There was a hint of doubt in her tone. Zhang confidently confirmed his words. He looked completely calm. My cousin noticed that my aunt was trying very hard. She suggested that we at least go for the sake of decency. Zhang refused and said he didn't feel anything for the girl in the photo. He firmly stated that he would not go. His cousin asked him how he was going to explain all this to his mother. Her voice became cautious. Zhang shrugged and suggested a simple solution. He said he would claim that he was already seeing someone. My cousin hesitated and asked quietly if it was a girl. Her face was slightly flushed. Zhang grinned and said that he would tell his mother that he was dating her. He added that her mother always treated her well. His cousin flushed and pushed him away indignantly. She snapped that she didn't want to be his girlfriend. She added that she didn't like him and didn't want him to make up any nonsense. The situation became awkward. At that moment, a familiar voice rang out. Song Ye walked up to them. Zhang quickly told his cousin that he needed to sort things out. He asked me to let him go. Her cousin said irritably that she would deny any rumors. She looked confused and angry at the same time. Song Ye looked after her and asked what it was. His brows rose slightly. Zhang honestly admitted that he didn't understand. He looked confused. Then, he turned to Song Ye and asked who he had brought. His interest increased noticeably. Song Ye chuckled and said that the answer would appear right away. He took a step to the side. At that moment, a familiar, uncomfortably confident voice rang out. It sounded too familiar. "Hey, Zhang, the man said with a smirk. "Aren't you bored without me?" Zhang Bei narrowed his eyes and stared at the young man in front of him for a few seconds in silence, as if fishing out an image of him from the depths of his memory, until a lazy, disdainful grin appeared on his face. At this moment, he finally remembered that this was the troublesome disciple who had once caused him quite a bit of trouble. Wang Yang visibly stiffened under that gaze, but instead of his usual brashness, there was a certain reserve in his demeanor, as if he had learned something in the intervening time. His posture was straighter, his movements more cautious, and his eyes no longer darted like a teenager looking for a reason to fight. Song Ye, who was watching this scene from the sidelines, clearly found it amusing and wasn't going to interfere, letting the situation unfold on its own. It was obvious to him that Zhang Bai should decide for himself what to do with this unexpected gift. Zhang Bai chuckled inwardly as he realized the irony of what was happening. After all, until recently this guy was just a regular school trash, and now he was literally being put next to him. The thought of being responsible for such a driver was both irritating and oddly curious. Wang Yang, meanwhile, couldn't take his eyes off the nearby car, which reflected the streetlights, as if confirming that his life had indeed taken a sharp turn. He still didn't fully believe that this was happening to him for real, and not just another cruel joke of fate. Zhang Bai realized that this evening was clearly not going according to plan, and inwardly prepared for the new problems that would inevitably come along with this guy. However, deep down, he felt that Song Ye wouldn't recommend a dummy, which meant that there was more to come than just an annoying driver. Zhang Bei, Wu Tian, and Wu Zhong spent the evening drinking, and the conversation quickly turned from mere formalities to matters that really concerned the hosts of the meeting. The atmosphere was tense, despite its outward relaxation, and the air felt that the reason for this meeting was much more serious than the usual exchange of pleasantries. Wu Tian was clearly worried and didn't try to hide it. After the recent events, Zhang Bai's name was widely discussed, especially after the conflict with the representatives of Hebei, and this is what made him a key figure in the eyes of many people. However, Jiang Bei himself treated such attention with cold annoyance and preferred to be spoken to directly, without flattery or detours. The reason for Wu Tian's concern soon became clear. Their series starred an actress named Lu Lu, and the project suddenly became extremely successful, bringing serious profit and resonance in the industry. It was at this point that a problem arose. Lu Lu was forcibly taken away by people from the north on the orders of a local tycoon whose influence extended far beyond one region. An attempt to return it by force has already been made, but ended in failure. The squad sent by Wu Tian had suffered heavy losses, and most of the people had returned with heavy injuries. This made it clear that the enemy has well-trained fighters, and further force pressure can only lead to even greater losses. The situation was aggravated by the conditions put forward by the other side. The people from the north demanded to completely stop cooperating with Lu Lu, threatening to hold her for 3 months. This was unacceptable to Wu Tian, as Lu Lu was not just an actress or part of a business to him, but someone he felt personally responsible for. He knew that if he compromised now, such pressure would be repeated in the future. Wu Tian had come across various methods of pressure in his years in the entertainment industry, but such a blatant capture was the first and most dangerous case for him. Zhang Bai, after listening to all this, didn't make any hasty promises. He was clearly aware that the north was a territory where forces of a different level were operating, and any interference could lead to consequences that could not be controlled. The thought of asking Zhao Ye for help crossed his mind, but Wu Zhong immediately made it clear that there was no need. It turned out that there were people connected to the Nalen group behind what was happening, and that name alone was a serious warning. Zhang Bai knew very well who Nalan Zunda was, and he understood that an open conflict with him was not just a risk, but an almost guaranteed disaster for the unprepared. He has made it clear that he does not intend to become a pawn in someone else's game, and will not allow himself to be used as a cover. At the same time, he did not rule out the possibility of intervention, if it is possible to find a workaround that does not lead to a direct collision. After some hesitation, Jiang Bai ordered to contact Tianzong, a man with whom he already had experience of personal confrontation and mutual respect. This move was not motivated by emotion, but by cold calculation. Tianzong was in Binhai at the time, where he was improving his combat skills and participating in closed-door duels. Their previous sparring left a strong impression on both sides, and this was the basis for possible cooperation. Jiang Bai hoped that through Tianzong, he would be able to gain access to the necessary information and influence in the north without coming into direct conflict with Nalen. He knew that this request would not be easy, but in the current situation, it was one of the few paths that was still open. Tianzong quickly understood which northern city he was referring to, and the name of the person behind what was happening didn't come as a surprise to him. When he heard that it was about Tiger Runking, he only chuckled, as if everything was already clear to him. It turned out that Runking's people had recently come into conflict with the southern conglomerate. Tianzong immediately compared the facts and realized that this conflict was directly related to Zhang Bai's entourage. He took control of the situation without hesitation. For him, such behavior of a subordinate was unacceptable, and he made it clear that there is always a price to pay for self-will. Wu Tian, hearing that the matter would be resolved, could barely contain his joy. To him, this meant that the worst-case scenario was finally over. Tianzong was clearly annoyed by Runking's audacity. A subordinate who dared to cause trouble while under his authority had clearly overestimated their capabilities. Zhang Bai sincerely thanked Tianzong for his help. He also made it clear that in the future he is ready to respond in kind if support is needed. Tianzong only laughed, noting that Master Nalan had long been interested in Zhang Bai. He promised that at the next meeting he would personally accompany him and introduce him to part of his private collection. The conversation came to an end, and the connection was cut. It all happened quickly, but the consequences of this call were much more significant than it might seem at first glance. Zhang Bai assured Wu Tian that the problem wouldn't happen again. The northern city was no longer a source of threat, and it was safe to exhale. Almost immediately after that, Wu Tian received an unexpected call. The person on the other end of the line hastily claimed that he didn't know about Zhang Bai's patronage and was willing to settle the matter completely. He promised to pay compensation and vowed never to interfere in their affairs again. His tone was careful and pointedly respectful, which spoke for itself. Zhang Bai knew that this was the end of his engagement. He calmly stated that he no longer saw any reason to delay. Wu Zhong, however, didn't want to let go of the guests so easily. He suggested a change of scenery and a little relaxation in one proven place. They soon found themselves in a club filled with noise, lights, and loud music. Zhang Bai noted that the atmosphere here was really lively and energetic. The alcohol consumed earlier made itself felt. Zhang Bai decided to leave for a while, asking Wu Zhong to go ahead. It had been a long time since he'd been in a place like this. Everything around him seemed both familiar and unfamiliar. At that moment, a passing girl caught his attention. Something about her gait and silhouette made him stop abruptly. She visibly quickened her pace, as if trying to disappear into the crowd. This only served to increase his suspicions. Zhang Bai realized that she was moving too confidently and quickly for a casual visitor. He closed the distance easily. When the girl tried to push through the crowd, it was clear that she was hoping to get lost. However, the crowd played against her. Her movements suddenly became uneven, and it was obvious that she was in pain. It only confirmed that she was here for a reason. Zhang Bai frowned, taking a closer look at her. At this moment, he finally realized who was standing in front of him. The realization came sharply and uncomfortably. He demanded an explanation, not going to let her go until he heard the truth. Wu Gen's name came back to him all too clearly. And now the question was not what she was doing here, but why she had even dared to show up in such a place in the first place. Zhang Bai demanded an explanation, abruptly and without detours, because what was happening was beyond all reasonable bounds. Wu Xin's presence in such a place was beyond him. She couldn't answer right away and just stammered, as if she didn't know where to start. Her confusion only served to increase his irritation. He quickly realized that this job was a forced measure for her. The late hour, the provocative clothing, and the club's setting didn't suit the schoolgirl in any way. Wu Xin couldn't stand the pressure and burst into tears. The lack of money and the desperate situation broke her completely. Realizing this, Zhang Bai abruptly lowered his voice. He realized that he had been preoccupied with his own affairs for too long and had missed the moment when she really needed help. The thought that she might have just called him came too late. The blame for what happened fell on him. He took responsibility and decided to fix everything immediately. Money shouldn't have been a problem for her anymore. Zhang Bai insisted that she quit this job immediately. He also ordered a reliable driver to take her home. The situation seemed to be calming down. However, at this moment, people who did not like what was happening at all intervened. The owner of the restaurant noticed the girl and was clearly not going to let her go just like that. His behavior from the very beginning was brazen and threatening. Several men blocked the way, making no secret of their intentions. Their looks and words left no doubt as to what they wanted. Zhang Bai instantly realized that they were the ones who were chasing Wu Xin. The attempt to get her drunk and take advantage of the situation was obvious. When one of them got too close, Zhang Bai's patience ran out. He acted abruptly and without warning. The blow was fast and precise. The man collapsed to the floor before he realized what had happened. Zhang Bai's rage came out. He made it clear that no one was allowed to even look in his little sister's direction. He wasn't going to limit himself to just one punch. There was a real threat in his voice and movements that he would break anything he could lay his hands on. The situation instantly escalated. People around him started shouting, and the owner of the restaurant ordered to kill him. At that moment, Wang Yang appeared. His presence changed the balance of power in a matter of seconds. He was armed and acted without hesitation. For him, what was happening was not difficult at all. It ended quickly and cruelly. The people who had once felt themselves masters of the situation were no longer a threat. Wu Xin recognized Wang Yang and didn't immediately believe that it was over. The tension she'd been holding back began to ease. Zhang Bai noted that he had arrived just in time. He hadn't even noticed Wang Yang's disappearance until now. The explanation was simple and almost preposterous. But it didn't matter now. Zhang Bai only said dryly that it shouldn't happen again. He made it clear that alcohol is not allowed during work hours. Wang Yang was prepared to continue if necessary. Wang Yang broke down first and started beating up all the men who were nearby. He moved fast and hard, leaving no time for anyone to react or run. The club's guests only watched from the sidelines. No one was in a hurry to call the police because it was clear to everyone that it was too dangerous to interfere now. After a short time, Wang Yang finished the massacre. He straightened up and made it clear that everything on his part was complete. Zhang Bai noticed that he was clearly overdoing it. However, in the current situation, he decided to turn a blind eye to it. One of the men, who was called Fatty Yang, was still conscious. His attempt to keep the threat out of his voice was pathetic and unconvincing. Zhang Bai coldly made it clear that any words now would only make his situation worse. A single glance was enough to silence the man. At this moment, another person appeared in the hall. He carried a bat in his hands and walked with the confidence of someone who was used to thinking of this place as his territory. He made it clear that he was the one who set the order here. Violations, in his opinion, should have been punished immediately. Fatty Yang seized on the man's appearance as a last resort. He demanded that the newcomer not let anyone go. Zhaoqi didn't stall for time. He immediately showed that he was going to act on his own. Wang Yang assessed the situation and didn't back down. The confrontation between weapons and bats looked dangerous, but he was confident. Zhaoqi, in turn, maintained a cold calm. His posture and gaze spoke of great combat experience. The fight began abruptly and without warning. The blows followed one after another, giving no time for respite. Wang Yang gave his best, using everything he had learned. However, it was obvious that his opponent was superior in strength and technique. Zhang Bai watched the fight from the side. He admitted that Zhaoqi was really good despite the place he worked in. Wang Yang didn't give up even under pressure. He made it clear that the reason for everything was an attempt to harm the girl, and not a desire to cause chaos. He couldn't understand how such things were even allowed in this club, especially if the person opposite called himself a security guard. Zhaoqi made his position very clear. He wasn't interested in morality, justice, or other people's problems. The only thing that mattered to him was the order of his territory. Anyone who broke it automatically became an enemy. He acknowledged that Wang Yang was young and talented, but on this day, luck wasn't on his side. The encounter with Zhaoqi was an ordeal for Wang Yang, and this night clearly wasn't over yet. Wang Yang's knife was already broken by now. His breath was coming in short gasps and his hands were shaking, but he was still on his feet. Zhaoqi made it clear that being careless here is equal to death. His pressure was felt in every movement. Wang Yang, despite the pain, was not going to back down. He answered fiercely, as if fear no longer possessed him. Wuxin looked at him anxiously. Her voice cracked when she saw the state he was in. A thought flashed through Wang Yang's mind about the strange power of this bat. Each blow felt like a train had hit him. They grappled again, and this time the fight got even tougher. The punches were dirty, fast, and merciless. Wuxin couldn't stand it anymore and turned to Zhang Bai. She didn't understand why he hadn't intervened yet. Zhang Bai only laughed as he watched the scene unfold. In his eyes, it looked like a harsh lesson, not a tragedy. Wang Yang realized that if things continued at this rate, he might die. The thought really scared him for the first time. Zhaoqi decided that it was time to end the fight. He was about to deliver a decisive blow with all his strength. At this moment, Zhang Bai abruptly interjected. He grabbed Zhaoqi and threw him away with such force that he lost control of his body. Even Zhaoqi himself was stunned. He realized that he couldn't break free of that grip. Zhang Bai showed what a real difference in strength meant. He hit Zhaoqi so hard that he literally flew into the air. The people in the club froze in shock. For them, what was happening looked like a scene from a movie, not reality. Zhang Bai suggested a real fight if he was still able to get up. However, Zhaoqi conceded defeat. Disappointment flashed across Zhang Bai's face. He was bored when everything ended so quickly. Wu Xin asked in surprise why Wang Yang didn't show any emotion. He just shrugged. His guesses had been confirmed during the training sessions with Song Yi. The boss's personality seemed incredible to an ordinary girl like her. Wu Xin recalled how the boss had helped her mother and never laid a finger on her. He had always treated her like a little sister. Wang Yang was thinking about the boss's style. Such actions were in his spirit, to take care of people, to put them in important positions in the future. He confessed that he only wanted to be with Wu Xin because of her looks. But the boss loved her for her personality, not caring about her background. Wang Yang added that the boss was even confused about her mother. He realized that he couldn't compete. The boss was like an older brother to him. Wang Yang promised to keep a secret about Wu Xin's mother. If she needed help, he would be there. Wu Xin thanked him, but he reminded her that they were friends. She asked how many people worked under it. Wang Yang admitted that he was just a novice driver. At this time, Zhang Bai was in the club. Wu Zheng asked how he wanted to solve the problem. Jiang looked at Zhao Qi and asked what he would do if he were in his place. Zhao Qi abruptly grabbed the bat, but Jiang offered to test his strength. The man tried to intervene, but Zhao Qi stopped and threw the bat. Jiang was surprised and asked why he did it. Zhao Qi explained that he had no control over his lessons. Jiang noted his stubbornness and suggested that if he wanted to change jobs, he turned to Song Ye's brother for training. He turned to the man. This place must cease to exist and he doesn't want to see it there anymore. The man thought about his lost life, home, family, and assets, not knowing how to explain it all. Jiang sternly told the fat man that he wouldn't just let him go if he threatened his sister. The man begged to be released, promising not to appear again and not to cause any harm. Jiang clarified that this is all he can say. The man tried to explain something, but Wu Tian intervened, suggesting a last resort so that he couldn't harm the girl in the future. The man pleaded again, calling himself the deputy director of police and mentioning his brother. But Wu Tian only chuckled, wondering who would dare to go up against him. Jiang said that the experience wouldn't save him and left the rest to Wu Tian. After that, Jiang went out and remembered that Wu Hong had promised him a surprise. When he entered the room, he saw a beautiful girl. The surprise was impressive, and he spent the night with her. The next morning, he was ready for more work. The man reported that Master Wu Hong had left gifts for Jiang. The man said that a huge villa is included as a gift, and its reconstruction is almost finished. Jiang was surprised to see a bunch of keys. A house? The man specified that these are documents for several villas in the Upper Tiandu district, with a total value of $30 million, with a plot of more than 12 acres and a construction site of more than 8,000 square meters. Jiang thought about the actual cost after repairs. About 500 million rubles. He told the man to convey his gratitude to the brothers personally. After that, he returned, changed his clothes, and went to the library. Jiang decided that he needed to explore the world completely, using the cheat memory to become omnipotent. He had read a lot of books and completed his classes for the day. On the way out, he met his cousin and said he wanted to show her something. My cousin asked me where they were going. Jiang replied that he was looking at the property and ordered Wang Yang to move out.